Hey, it's me, Rasan. I don't know, man. Huge hole in my,
Yeah.
understanding. My fellow Americans.
Probably here.
As long as whatever you're doing doesn't hurt anyone else, I don't care.
Different perspective of what an interesting topic is than I would assume.
This is Balance Exchange. Welcome back to Balance Exchange. I'm your host, Cronus, and I'm here with...
Papa Bear, as always, and we have a special guest today. You want to introduce yourself just real quick, just your name, I guess?
I guess my name is Savannah Cannon.
Yeah.
Make one up,
all right, and then yeah, just making some stuff up. Yeah. So we're going to talk pretty much just about books today. We usually open a lot of our podcasts with some stuff to do with whatever we're reading, books we're interested in, what we're doing, but it's generally while leading to some other subject. Today we're going to cut that and focus straight in on books. But let's start with what we usually start with, which is Cronus. What are you drinking right now?
I'm drinking sad electrolytes. No alcohol. Sorry, I'm like super keto right now, so I can't drink. Well, I mean, I can, but I'm not.
Yeah, he and I have been comparing our ketone numbers. Actually, the last few days, we both keep posting pictures of our ketone measurements, and so I'm in the same boat. It's just some flavored Walmart, no calorie water stuff. So pretty sad on our ends. You can. So I had like a celebratory 3 grams of carbs in it total beer the other day, but it's dangerous if you're trying to like really keep your ketones up, because then the alcohol itself will stop the ketone production. So if you don't have the levels high enough, they won't catch back up fast enough, and then you drop out and you get sick. So
I mean, I'm so deep right now. I'm pretty sure. I'm so deep. I'm pretty sure I could like actually drink the whole bottle of vodka right now, but I don't want to chance it. I've lost a good amount of weight. Anyway, Savannah, please save us with something actually alcoholic.
I'm sorry I didn't get the alcoholic memo, but and I'm also trying to lose weight. I am just doing Fresca.
Well, all right.
there we go.
Yeah, grapefruit citrus.
This is the healthy one then. We're doing this is the healthiest podcast I think we've done.
I think it's the first time no one has had it. Usually when if one of us is doing keto, the other one's kind of has a drink, and then if you're doing when you did like the sober October, I was in heavy. I was drinking my ass off those ones. So there's always been somebody drinking. So
yeah. All right. I guess it's a good message for people. You can stop drinking and it's okay.
Yeah.
So at this point in watching our videos, you may or may not know that I am an active duty United States Marine. And I've been doing this for 20 plus years, so I know that it's really important for me to make sure to get this out there. If it's your first time watching this, please stick around and make sure you understand the disclaimer. If you've watched a whole lot of our episodes so far, feel free to go ahead and jump ahead to the new content. So what I need to talk about today is that I am not authorized and have no way of being approved to speak on behalf of the Marine Corps. So any opinion that I give or any concept that I discuss today is the position and the opinion of just me, myself, just a man who has a bachelor's degree in political science and a master's degree in leadership and organizational management, and has spent my whole life looking at government structures and social contracts and how these things are supposed to work, what the philosophies and things behind them are, and read a lot of books on that kind of stuff. And it's definitely one of my personal and key passions. And so when you hear me maybe give a position or a concept on something, that is only my own position. I am not a public affairs officer for the Marine Corps. I am in no way giving what the Marine Corps' official position on anything would be. And honestly, a lot of the topics we're going to cover here, I'm pretty sure the Marine Corps doesn't have a particular position on. So if you do have any questions about what the Marine Corps' policy on certain things could be, you can definitely research that and find those out, or leave a comment or send us a message if you can get a hold of us somehow. We can maybe be able to answer those questions for you. So with that said, let's get you back to this week's content.
Yeah. So then I guess I'll start with what I'm reading. So right now what I'm reading is The Body Keeps Score, which we talked about quite a few episodes ago. It's one I've been planning to pick up. And I was kind of tell you, so like I knew what the concepts were. I read through the synopsis of it and like the general precepts. And I'm going through a lot of my own counseling and stuff right now too. And my counselor's been really great. And I talked with her a little bit about the fact that book kind of hit on a concept she and I had talked about. So then when I came back after the holiday session, or maybe it was my one right before for taking like a Christmas break or whatever, like I bought a hard copy, had it shipped to my house, and like I signed like the inside saying, thanks for like helping me be more comfortable with starting my own journey through counseling and everything else, and letting her know like I really appreciate everything she's doing and try to make this something I can get through. So I gave her a copy of that book because she hadn't read it either. So
Oh wow, yeah, that's I think that's a book that every single Marine should read. It's hard to
100%.
read though. It's really hard to read.
There,
Yeah.
like I have a list of books that I think every Marine should read. That's on it, but then like On Killing and On Combat are on it as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are good ones. But The Body Keeps the Score was, it's a classic.
Yeah. So
I switched back to it like yesterday because while I was listening to it, I looked towards some certification stuff for the fundraising I'm needing to do for rescue residents, and like there's a textbook that's like the textbook for getting ready for an exam you can take to become like a certified fundraising executive or whatever. And so I was like, oh, hey, look, it's on audiobook, cool. And it was narrated by like the most boring voice I've ever heard in my entire life. And I was like, nope, I'm just gonna have to order a hard copy. Return this. It's the first time I've ever returned a book on Audible, and I got my credit back.
You
But
can
I was like,
return books
no.
on Audible?
yeah,
You can't. I didn't know how easy it was going to be, and I was like, I'm going to try and see how it is. It's literally like went to the book, was like clicked return. It's like, here's your credit back. I was like, wow, okay.
Oh.
So it's within 30 days, I think, is the thing. It's that easy, but and so I'm back on The Body Keeps the Score.
Well, I always tell
'Cause, yeah, it
people
was like kind of bad.
pick it up and like read it in chunks, but like don't expect to like blaze through it. Just digest it when you can.
Yeah, I just part of it. It's like it's lists of things, and it was. I could tell he was. I don't think he had the most engaging normal audiobook reading voice, anyways. But then he's got to read lists and like definitions of things. I was like, yeah, this sounds like a book I just need to be able to look to and refer to and like read sections and like okay and like process stuff and come up with my own notes. And it's definitely a textbook for a class. And I was trying to listen to it on my drives to work. I was like, yeah, this isn't gonna work.
Yeah.
All right, Savannah, what are you reading?
Oh, I'm in the middle of at least 7 books at all times, and I'm not.
I think it was like 5 last time we talked. But so now you got 2 more on the list.
Yeah. So I'm reading 100 Years of Solitude, and that's like interesting because all the characters have like the same names, and so it's really difficult to follow. I don't know if y'all have ever read that.
No.
Okay, it's considered one of the classics. One of my like goals is to read all the classics, so every Tolstoy and like everything, War and Peace, like you name it. So 100 Years of Solitude is on there, and it's a pretty intense read just because of the names and following that. So I'm reading that. I'm reading with Rhythm of War. Yeah, so I hear it's the worst one, and I'm like, thanks everyone for telling me that. What the hell? Like,
It's not that bad.
It's still really good. It's just a bit more of a slog than his normal writing, and that's why people are comparing it that way or saying it that way. He just writes so well that when you write only like a great book, that it's you're like, oh, it's the worst one. You're like, yeah, but it's still great.
I'm also reading Quiet, which is the power of introverts in a world that can't stop talking. So
Yeah,
I'm
it's
almost
good.
up to that one. That one's pretty good. Like I've appreciated some of the nuggets. And also realize I'm probably more of an introvert than expected. Oh, goodness. What else? I'm reading The Red and the Black by Stendhal, which is another classic. It was translated from French over to English. So that's like a bit of an intense one. It's considered one of the greatest love stories ever also. Let's see. What else? I struggle to remember, but I have books placed everywhere. Like they're in my car, they're on my phone, they're in the bathroom, like wherever I manage to pick it up. Is where I'll go from there. So that's about it. Like those are the ones I can remember right now.
Gotcha.
It's funny. I was thinking that Rhythm of War wasn't that bad, but I actually haven't read that one yet. It's my next one because I'm reading Oathbringer. So that's
not your one then. Your next one's Dawn Shard.
Is it?
Yeah.
It says Rhythm of War is book 4. Maybe I have this wrong.
No, it is book 4, but there is the short story.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. I got
So I did that one.
I'll get to that one too. Yeah, they're long ass books. Everybody knows this. It's like if you listen to, especially on audiobook, like I think this one is 55 hours long. So yeah, it takes a long time.
Are you listening to it on I can't do a 55-hour long book. I can't just.
Yeah, I don't know. There's like a piece of my brain that's like set aside for just audiobooks. So I'll get up and I'll do something, like I'll clean the house, do dishes, like something, and or just work out or whatever in the sauna, and I can just set aside part of my brain to like listen to a book, and it just everything else is automatic. I probably can't do what you're doing and like read like 5 books or 6 books at a time. Like I need to go through like the entire one and then go to the next. So
Like, I think like I love audiobooks. Seriously, I love them. But the whole I'm reading The Lost Metal also.
oh, nice.
Yeah, that's the newest one that I didn't know existed.
Yeah.
But I'm reading on Audible as well as Quiet. So I can do audiobooks, but like when it gets to be over 20 hours, I just get demoralized. 'Cause I'm like, I don't see the number going down at all.
I don't even look at the number.
I am a numbers person. I want to see the success. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got an hour and a half commute total every day, so it's like 45 there, 45 back. So I see hours tick away every single day. So I'm like, oh, I can do this.
And actually, the book that I read before this was your book, which is a great book.
Oh,
so
thank you.
yeah, so I guess we can just segue into that. You're a fucking author, so
Yeah, thank you. What'd you
Big
think?
part of why we wanted to talk about it. Yeah.
what did I think? I think it was one of the most fucked up stories I ever read in my entire life, to be honest with you. There are parts where I got super emotional. I might have shed a tear or two. And I was just like, man, the amount of things that happened to this woman are awful. And to not have any sort of backing from leadership is terrible. It's like, it's one of the reasons why I got out of the Corps. It's because I saw some of these leaders, they had very little leadership qualities, but for some reason they were in long enough, and they just became, the higher ups, and it was just like, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I'm maybe preaching to the choir here, but to have like that many things happen to you and nobody notice, and then when they did notice, the other things that happened, like I don't want to get too deep into your book, but there was like a part of like you were going to Germany, I think it was Germany, and then somebody was giving you a ride, and like what he did in the car, I was just like, what the fuck? There was like a lot of what the fuck moments where it was just like, I just want to kill somebody. Like, I was like, dude, what is going on here? And it was very uncomfortable for me to read, but I think it was a really good book. So,
Well, thanks.
What's the name of your book? Because we didn't even say that.
It's Corporal Cannon, a female Marine in Afghanistan. And yeah, it's been a very interesting ride to get it to publishing and out the door and everything. I don't know if y'all are interested in that whole journey, but
What happened? Like, tell us your journey, because I have no idea.
so I actually I had a mental breakdown in 2016, which if you've read the book, like no surprise there, but I just had to start writing. And so I had a blog, and I was just writing on the blog, and like my Facebook friends would read it. And they were like, what the fuck? Because I was just like, I'd be up all night and I'd do really short chapters just to get it out of me, because I felt like I was going to like vomit. Right. So I got it all out in like 80% of it in like 2 months. And like, it was to the point where I was working where I work now. And like, I would go to work and my boss would be like, you look like shit. Like, they were like, are you okay? You don't look good. And I'm like, I'm fine. I haven't slept. So it was like 2 months of me staying up and doing this stuff. But it was like very therapeutic, right? Like that's what I felt like my first intro to deep therapy was sitting there and just writing out all the stuff that was inside of my head, all the stuff that I lived every single night, all the nightmares, like all that stuff. So I got it all out. And like what kept me going was the fact that people were reading it and were like, we had no idea this happened to you. These were people that had been my friends for years. But yeah, so I got the majority of it out, and I was like, oh, well, I guess like everyone's like, this needs to be a book. And I was like, oh, yeah, I've always wanted to write a book, so let's just like put it together. And I looked for an editor because, I was way too close to the story, right? Like I couldn't, like in that drafted form, like it was all over the place because it would just be whatever memories I could remember that night or whatever would come up. So it was all over the place. But I got an editor, and she blew me off because like she thought I was, and these were her words, a bored housewife with just another boring story.
Wow.
But she was like, I'm busy. I don't really have any time. So like, send me the first 10 pages and I'll see which one of my friends wants to like be an editor for you. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, man, 10 pages. Fuck that. I just sent her like what I had, which was like I said, like 80% of it. And she called me back within 24 hours and she was like, I immediately printed it off. I immediately started like editing it, which I don't do. She was like, I will work for you for free. And so like completely changed her tune and was like, has become my biggest advocate like ever. And she has been a mentor of mine, really. So, but yeah, we've been through, like, she got me an agent and it was kind of cool. The agent was an editor for a pretty famous book that had a movie made after it. And I'm going to protect her name because I eventually fired her because she was not doing her job. But she was a super famous like editor and all this stuff. And anyway, I'll tell you guys later, just not on.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, and I had to fire her because I was getting offers from publishing houses and she wasn't like pulling through on them. So I had a different editor that she wanted me to use and I had to pay out of pocket like $3,000. But what she did was she went through and she like, I was trying to get what's the stuff where you fundraise? Come on, you know, like
GoFundMe?
yeah, I got to GoFundMe because I was like, hey guys, like I can't afford $10,000 to get an editor, which is what they were quoting me for this woman to edit this book. And so she got through like a third of it and she sent it back to me and was like I had all these comments and I was getting so fucking frustrated reading them because this woman had clearly never been anywhere near the military. And so like one of her things was she was like, I'm taking out all the F-bombs, like people in the military don't curse this much. And I'm like,
Yes, the fuck we do.
the fuck they do. Like, what do you And like she was turning it very boring and dull and like just changing the tone and the speed and I hated it.
Wait, was she the boring housewife? Is that the full circle here?
She was a boring housewife.
Right.
But no, and so like I eventually was like, she can't edit my book. This is awful. And my local editor was like, then we'll get rid of her. But I still had to pay her a third of the book cost because she had edited a third of it. So I had to eat it. And I like said, thanks to the GoFundMe people, but I was like, I'll pay for this. Like, this is my like fuck up. Like, I will just pay for this. And I did. So I paid $3,000 to have to unfuck all of her like edits and everything, which was awful. But then I got an offer and yeah, they allowed me to do the audiobook, which I think you listened to the audiobook. So
you sound very familiar.
Yeah.
So they allowed me to audition. I had to audition for my own book, which was interesting. And then, I recorded it in a studio in LA. And the sound engineers were great. Like they actually hid me. Normally, like you're supposed to see the sound engineer, but they specifically put me in the corner so I would have like privacy. Because they were like, this is a fucked up story. We want you to have like privacy. And it was good. But yeah, it got published in October. It's been submitted for a few awards, but I don't know if it'll win. It's won some stuff in San Diego that I believe will be performed at some of the La Jolla Arts things.
Huh.
So
maybe I'll go.
Yeah, I got selected for Shaking the Tree, which I think they end up having someone perform like the chapter that I submitted, which I can't remember which one I submitted, but yeah, so it's going to be interesting.
I know when like I went and wrote my review on the audiobook stuff, one of the like my favorite, I kind of went through and saw what other people had said to make sure one, I wasn't being derivative. I didn't want to like write the same things. So I was kind of like making sure I didn't write the same stuff after I'd written it. But then I also saw some talking about like, and it was very true that because it was your story for one, and I'm guessing now that you described the studio setup too, that they really made you able to kind of just have your own space to do it in. You can really feel like moments in it too, where you were getting emotional while doing the recording, like, and it helped, I think, convey that emotion to the listener too. Like, okay, this is it's an important moment too, is they're going through experiencing your story and in their own way, you were, having to kind of re-experience it too. So there's definitely some moments I remember thinking that too. And I really appreciated those reviews. So
I also really liked how like honest the book was, because there was like, anybody can edit themselves to like make them like their hero of every story of themselves. But the fact that you put in stuff that was like, I don't know, it wasn't like, I don't want to put it in a bad way, but we all make like mistakes. You know what I mean? I don't want to be a dick.
It's okay. I know. I was a dumb like 20-year-old. Like I was just, and part of the therapeutic process of me writing it was I was like, I can't make myself look good. Like it's, so when people are like, I can't wait to read your story, I'm like, ooh, all right, have fun. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna find out some stuff about me that you might not like. But yeah, I thank you for that, because I think, I mean, I did not want to come off like I'm a badass person. That's like that's not what I felt like. I felt very, you know, I felt like the bad guy for a long time. There was a lot of like guilt that I carried about a lot of stuff. I mean, I still carry a little bit of it, but
Well, that was one of the like back and forths we had not too long ago, just a couple days ago too, which was like the villain of your own story kind of thing, where we kind of all play all of the roles that we went through. I know we were talking about the hero and the villain. There was one other one too, like can't remember, but basically like we play in our own stories all of these different roles for our own lives, where we're going to be the person who like pulls ourselves through it, but there's also times where we're going to be the one who fucked it up and made it worse and made the wrong decision to make things harder on ourselves. But and you kind of made the point. It's like the problem is most people often forget about the villain part of their own life and how they've done that. They try to not pay too much attention to it. So
yeah, facing the id is pretty difficult to do it, and putting that to paper is even fucking harder. I mean, because you kind of laid yourself out bare there, and it was crazy because like Papa Bear talked about you in the book, but he didn't tell what the book was about. So I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna listen to this book. Let's go. I had no, I was like, oh,
you went in blind.
Yeah, I was like,
I let him go in blind. Yeah, I was hoping it'd be better for the conversation. So
yeah, I was like, all right, this is some pretty awful shit. I'm just gonna keep it rolling because what I do is I try to read fun books, and then I have like a real book that's shitty, like, but it's not shitty in like it's a bad book, but like a shitty content that I really don't want to read, but I have to. Like usually it's like some civil rights shit or something like that. But with this one, I was just like, man, all right, can this get? Oh, it's gonna get worse. So, but yeah, I don't want to like. I want people to read the book, so I don't want to talk about it like the content of the book too much. But I will say one last thing on the book. There was like one person in the book, because I used to be a contractor. Right from the get go, I was like, something's very wrong here, and I was just like. Yeah, my teeth were like grinding the whole time this person's name was mentioned, and I'm glad that what happened eventually happened. But I was just like, because me as a contractor, we're very privileged over there, and I think that some people that are contractors take advantage of that with other people over there, and it's really fucked up, and I don't think enough people. Get called out enough about that. I remember when I was in the Marine Corps, I was in a comm shop with a bunch of other, female Marines, and it's, to me it was normal. But I understand like other places, it's not normal to have any females around like ever. I actually married, a female Marine. We're divorced now, but I didn't know like this whole like issue of like sexual assaults in the military for like the longest time until after I got out of the military, and then I was a contractor and I flew and I went to Iraq, and the first thing I saw when I landed was on an army base. It was like all this shit about if you're a woman, stick with somebody because there's like a high chance of sexual assaults, and I was just like, what the fuck? Like, is that happening in like the military that I was in? Like, I had no idea. Like, I literally had no idea. And I'm like, this is gross. And then like reading your story, I was just like, oh man, like I don't know. I hate being that ignorant like back then and like not knowing any of this stuff happened. But I think if I rewind in time, maybe there were some clues there that I just didn't actually see. So, or maybe I just willfully didn't see it because I was just some dude,
Well, from the conversations I've had with men, and men that have been around, including yourself, that people that are doing bad things rarely do it in front of good men. Like they aren't, because they know they're going to get called out. So they look for the opportunities that they have where they're going to be less likely to be called out. So I'm not saying, you didn't see anything. You might have seen stuff, but if you aren't actively looking for it because you aren't aware it's there, then you're not going to see the signs. Whereas like now I am pretty vigilant with it. And like, I work around the Navy now. I work for the Navy. Yeah. So and I work still in IT. So whenever I'm around like women, I'm like very high vigilant about what is happening. But that's probably just because of, you know, everything that I've experienced. But I think the men that are next to me are just kind of like, oh, I just exist and I go to work and everything's fine and I leave. And the majority of women that I talk to have been harassed in multiple ways. Um, One of the hardest parts about me writing the bad parts of me were I was concerned about how the female Marines were going to take it, because there are so few of us that our image means a lot to, like, if you mess up as a female Marine, you're going to be hated, like, because they can't afford you to fuck up, because if you fuck up, you're fucking it up for them too. So I was very concerned about how it would be received by the other female Marines. But every single one that has read it and has talked to me, I'm sure people have read it and have not talked to me about it, but those who have read it and shared with me, they all said, you had the exact same experience that I did. And they were majority like, you know, they didn't come with hate or anger. They were just like, yeah, this all happened to me too. And it was just like, you know, yeah.
Well,
So
I hope more people read it so we can like be more vigilant of the same. Because now I'm just like, well, obviously I'm way older now, so I see those signs in general anyway. But now it's even more focused. Like after reading the book, it's like if people that are in right now are not going to know, and hopefully if they read the book, they can know like what to look out for more and to like put a stop to it, and especially not just turn a blind eye. Because I mean, it doesn't get very much worse than turning a blind eye in your situation. Like what happened in your situation, and I wouldn't wish that shit on anybody.
Yeah, no, I know that there's definitely a lot of effort to try to do better, but some of it's misguided, and I think some of it can be done in better ways. That's part of I don't know if I talked about this yet, Savannah, but like I've used the book as a way to kind of try to help with that too. Is I've for one, I was also just trying to get that same kind of dialogue that you brought up, where the female Marines you've had, or service members in general, who have read it and then talked with you about it afterwards, saying like, yeah, I've dealt with some of the same things. There's a few that are around that I talk to regularly and that I respect. And I was like, hey, read this book and then come back and talk to me about it. I want to know kind of like what your take on the book is. And in, you know, 2 out of 3 cases, it was definitely like the similar things I've dealt with. And these are pretty senior staff NCOs or officers at this point that I know and have talked to. And so it's unfortunate, because I think that probably the fact that it took you going through this on your own and then like telling this story to get closure to some extent for yourself, at least with it. And then to find that a good majority of those who have had take a look at it and then come back to me to talk about it have said the same thing, that it's more common than to have it not happen, I guess is the way I would put it. And it's really frustrating for me. And I know that you and I have talked about the fact that it really bothered me that I had no idea what was going on. That I didn't see that. It's the same as the way Razan talked about it. But I think the difference was comparing his time when he was in at about the same age, you were then, compared to the time I was a staff NCO, and I'm a person who's supposed to have been better at seeing those things and been more vigilant about it. But then, we've talked enough about it to help me understand, like, it's like you said, it's not necessarily something that would have ever been noticeable to the guys that people know would have called him out on it. So it's a good chance that if any of that would have been said, it would have never been said around me. So it's frustrating, but it's still, I guess I'm a little bit better since we've talked through it and too. So
it's interesting. There's, what is it? The MFG6 has some copies, because the guy, my CO who sent me there, read it. And who sent me to Afghanistan, he read it and he immediately contacted me and was like, what the fuck? He was like, I am so sorry that I sent you there. And like, he apologized. He works now at the MFG6 and he bought a few copies and he like sent them. For one, he sent them to the CO that I was underneath in Afghanistan, and sent it to his boss as well. And then he sent it to a few of his Marines, and all the women read it. And I guess it turns out a lot of the men are not finishing it. So I thought that was interesting. That and I was wondering, I don't have much information about like why, but I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Why maybe men can't finish reading it, and
Well, it shines light on like what some despicable dudes do, and I think any guy, this is like a possible situation. Is like some guy might open the book up, read what happens to you, and be like, well, I would never do something like that, and just close the book. It's like, but I mean, I would never do something like that either. But I still have to read the fucking book, so I wanted to know your story. But there's like this cognitive dissonance thing that happens with people in general, where if it's something where they have to change their mindset to get through a story, then they're not gonna finish it. And I think it also depends on probably age. If you're gonna, I would imagine like younger men would not read a book like that, like at all. They just wouldn't be interested. I think it would probably take some time for them to actually fucking grow up and to read through something that's very uncomfortable to read.
Yeah,
I
I think
can't
you
speak for all
hit
of
a
them,
word
though.
that's super important, though, the uncomfortable part of that, right? So I think that whether you're on any end of the spectrum we talk about, like someone who would potentially be someone who would do something that, but wouldn't do it in front of someone who wouldn't do that, wherever you are in that spectrum, like reading the things happening makes you uncomfortable. Either you're someone who does that and you're like, oh shit, this book's calling me out, right? Or you're someone on the other end of it and you're like, people don't do this, do they? There's no way this kind of thing happens. This can't be real. Like this has got to be make-believe stuff. And like I could see people not being comfortable and choosing then to not finish it because I was just reading the David Goggins stuff too, so we'll talk more about other books as we get through yours too. But like, and it's a big thing he leans on. Is like you should be trying to make yourself uncomfortable because that's how people get better. And so, in today's American society, something makes you uncomfortable means you're doing it wrong or you're doing it the hard way, and you should find an easier way to do it. And while that challenges you in a different way, if you're looking for like a smarter technical solution, if you're just saying, never mind, I'm just not going to do it, and you just lay down on the couch because you're in a comfort situation, then you're not doing it right either. So then people come across that uncomfortable situation and choose, rather than improving themselves by making their way through it and learning more about themselves and more about the world, probably they choose just to avoid it. So
I mean, and you would think that Marines especially would be used to, I guess Marines are only used to certain kinds of discomfort. You know what I mean? I don't think like when it comes to emotional discomfort, I don't think that's really a blip on the radar. You know what I mean?
no, they just shove it down.
Yeah. And that's a huge problem. Obviously we all know that now, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think growth happens in the discomfort, and that's I like when people push themselves like that. So I don't know. I know it's not a good, but and I honestly don't know how to react when people are like, "Oh, like I'm going to read your book," and I'm like, "Ooh, good luck." Like,
good luck.
I don't know. Like,
how did I know this? Like somehow I knew that's what you were gonna say. I was like, yep, good luck. Like,
and people are like, "What does that mean?" Like, I don't know, man. Just read it. Like, so
don't give up.
Yeah. Well, thank y'all for reading it. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for writing it.
Yeah, I didn't know for sure how Rasan was going to hit it, and that definitely was why I kind of let him go in blind. I was like, I'm not going to tell you anything about it. Just read the book.
Yeah,
just you got to read it.
Went all the way through an audiobook, so it took me maybe 3 days. So, yeah.
That's a hard-hitting 3 days.
Yeah. So I mean, I was just like, I can't. It was hard to like stop in points. I'm like, well, what the fuck happens next? It's like, does it get better? Please say it gets better. Like, and it took until like kind of like the end, and it's just like, and even the end is just like still, I don't know. You're good now though, right? You're better at least a little bit now. I hope.
Yeah, I'm better. Like I've been in serious therapy for 4 years, so
good.
There's like some other stuff that have made it better, but it's interesting. Like people are like, "Oh, this stuff doesn't happen in the Marine Corps, right?" Well, remember that was only like 9 months of my life when I was in the Marine Corps for 5 years, and I'm like, there are way more stories, by the way.
Yeah, you talked about in the book. You kind of hinted on that and some other stuff like in your childhood, and I was just like, I don't know if anybody picked that up, and I was just like, man, this is like a lot of stuff that you had to deal with like just like sexual assaults like throughout your entire life. That's just crazy. But you were just focused on like this particular part of your life, but you could, at least I could, by reading the book, that surrounding all of that, there was still other stuff that you just didn't talk about.
My editor was like, we need to expand on this, and I'm like, ooh, that's like another book or two. So like, no, I'll just leave it in there to see if people pick it up. But yeah.
Is there any plans for that? Are you thinking as you work your way through the rest of the stuff on at your own pace that writing some of those other stories out for your therapy and everything else to turn it into another book is something you maybe want to do, or is it like that? That was what I want to do. Done with that one.
No, I want to do more of them. It's just a lot of people, I guess, don't think about the fact that when you are writing about, take childhood, for example, if you're writing about your childhood, you're about to expose an entire family's skeleton closet.
Oh shit, do I know about that?
So it has not been received well, because I would write some of that stuff on my blog, and I mean, my grandmother died mad at me. So like that's about like where I'm at on like, yeah, I want to write it, but being a writer, you lose friends, like you lose family members. Like if you're honest, like, and you talk about stuff in what I try to subscribe, which is honesty, whether it's good or bad. If it makes me look bad, okay, but you know, people are like, well, you don't get to make other people look bad too. Like that was what some of my family members said, is like, it's not your right to make other people look bad. And I'm like, well, maybe they shouldn't do bad shit, you know?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
we all do bad stuff, you know, but like people don't like themselves airing out don't like other people airing out their dirty laundry. So, but surprisingly, not surprising, when the book started getting published and people started reading it, they started being a lot nicer to me, like just in general. Like, all right. Like I've had people crawl out of the woodwork to talk about stuff, and like, yeah, I've gotten a lot of apologies, which has been strange because I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't expecting a reception of apologies, but the CO did not apologize.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them are probably ones we've talked about, but like, more for the like just the apology of not having an idea what the hell is going on. Those ones, or are you talking more like personal, direct? I did something wrong and I want to apologize for that time frame, kind of thing.
The latter as well.
Really? Okay.
So, I mean, I don't mind talking about this. I'm gonna go talk about my book to the permanent personnel at NXS, which is the school, the Marine Corps Communication School, in February. And I wanted to bring up then that my instructor, when I was in comm school, he was more of like, it was consensual, but he started a relationship with me, which in hindsight, I had just turned 18. I was a PFC in the Marine Corps, and he was a staff sergeant. He was 28. Like the position of power, like, you know, imbalances. Yeah. So there's lots of gray area that comes there, because it was very consensual, right? But like, it was not okay. And
it's also very, very, very much against success rules. Very much.
Very much. And the thing was that the company gunnery sergeant found out about it, and instead of getting anyone in trouble, he decided to try to blackmail me to sleep with him so he wouldn't get me in trouble.
Wow.
And that is like, and this is, I'm like, that happened at McSess. And like, I can talk about the fact that I was sitting outside of my barracks room, and like the company offices are across the street, and I was on MySpace, and I get a random MySpace message from someone that's like, you know, hit me up and slide in the DMs back in the 2008 time.
Yeah, whatever that was back then.
But it turned out to be the company gunnery sergeant who was on a government computer across the street watching me from his company office. Yeah. I mean, the stories like that don't end. There was hardly a rank that didn't try to do that. Like, I just didn't see generals. That's probably why it didn't happen. But everyone else.
Wow.
So anyway, I talk about that as well.
Yeah, well, make sure I'm there. Be good.
Are you gonna be there?
I apparently am never going anywhere.
Well, you're gonna retire eventually, right?
Eventually. So we actually did our slating stuff today. This is a total shift to subject, down rabbit holes. So Savannah, welcome to the podcast. This is one of the things that happens where we're going through something else and we completely sidebar and try to remember how to get back to wherever we were talking. But So we're doing all of our like which warrant officers of which rank are going where in our MOS, and so I talked to my 5 like friend, the close friend. When I went through McSess for the first time, because my first job I went through school in Pensacola, and then when I lab moved into the comm stuff, like the ground comm stuff, because I was doing air comm stuff basically beforehand. Went through school here. I was a sergeant. He was a staff sergeant, tech controller, like had just got back from a deployment to Iraq and became my instructor. So like we go pretty far back. And I was trying to figure out, because he had said something about his retirement in 2025 and the timelines for his, because basically when he retires is when I pick up 5. So it's like, I wanted to understand exactly what his timeline was, because right now I don't know. Actually, I don't know if I even told you this yet, Rasan, but like I pulled back my retirement that's for this summer. So I canceled that. So I'm not officially retiring this summer. Was to at least stay here one more year to see through the VR stuff and all the other like work that I've been trying to do to make McSess better on the how we train Marines side. And so I wanted to give myself at least one more year. So really what I asked him was like, hey, so if it's 25 for you, if I moved at the end of in summer 24 and then a year later get 5, I got to move again. Is anybody going to have a problem with me just staying here like that other year, one more year to pick up 5 and then just go to Quantico? It's like, no, I don't think anybody's going to want to go there, man. You're fine to just stay in place. So really then I'd be here all the way till 25 as a 4 at a minimum. But then he's like, wait, what did you say? Like, no, it'll be summer 24 or December of 24 when I do. I was like, wait, so you're talking about like literally the year I would have to move would be the year I'd pick up 5 anyways, potentially. So it's looking like there's more and more of a chance that I'll pick up Chief Officer 5 actually.
That's good.
Yay.
I mean, that's great. Yeah. You get the bomb.
I don't know.
It's a bomb, right? You'd be a gunner? I got to remember. I've been out for a while.
No. Gunners are just the 03 warrant officers. I get a lightsaber rank insignias, like the little straight line red.
I got you. What was the fuck? I saw the bomb thing somewhere. What is that from?
No.
So yeah, gunners have bomb on one collar and then rank on the other collar.
Okay.
I've actually kind of had conversations with people that I think similar to the way the Navy ranks work, where you have like your rank and your rate. And then for us as restricted officers, since I do have a specialization, I should have my rank and rate potentially on my collar, like come up with rates for all of the different restricted officer MOSs. But
that'd be so confusing if I was trying to walk up and see if I had to salute you or not. Like, are you a cook? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a big chunk of shiny stuff. You're like, what is this symbol? I don't know what this is.
Just like those damn Chiefs in there. When the Chiefs walk around in McSess and like all the boots are like, do I fucking salute this person or it's shiny?
It's okay. They're so lost. Half of them don't salute half the time anyway. So,
So are you going to be there on the 10th, I believe? Yeah, February 10th?
yeah, that's a Friday. Yeah.
I'm supposed to talk to you.
Cool. You want me to introduce you? Or do you already have someone doing the introduction?
I have no idea. I'm waiting for Major Brown, I think, to email me back, verifying that we're good.
Yeah, he's the CTB op, so I work with him a lot. So
Wait, so
tell him to answer my email, please.
I will. He doesn't answer many emails. It's kind of frustrating.
So do you work for?
I'm calling you out.
You work for NMCI?
Oh God, no.
No,
That
okay.
hurt.
I used to work for them, so yeah.
No, I'm excited about my new job, so I want to brag about it. Yeah, I am now the lead systems engineer for ADNS, so the entire Navy global WAN.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thanks. I am stressed out already. That's why I'm like, you guys, I need to go to bed, but I don't have to work tomorrow. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Neither do I.
I'm still gonna get up and run, but I don't have to work tomorrow either. But I got to get ready because we're going to Vegas tomorrow night, so or probably tomorrow afternoon we'll start the drive with the RV and head up there. Friends of ours they're flying. So they live in Tampa. They're flying out here because. So he was a Marine Chief Warrant Officer, retired, and then his wife and Cindy worked together as teachers, so we were all pretty close friends. So like, he's flying to Vegas for a bowling tournament. So we're like, yeah, we'll come see you guys. Sure, why not? It's that big of a tournament that you're gonna fly from Tampa for this. Okay, cool.
Is he good?
He's crazy good. He's like 300s.
Wow.
If he doesn't bowl 300, he is upset. So.
I don't know much about bowling.
That's perfect. Yeah.
It's a perfect. That's a perfect set of frames. You cannot miss a single pin. It's a strike every single time.
So if everyone gets 300s, then how do they decide like what's the better 300?
I think
Yeah,
it
I
goes
don't
to
know.
mutual combat, doesn't it? Somebody has to kill. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works.
Can you hold it and smash the other person's head into
Exactly.
the bowling ball? No, so I think there's extra frames basically at that point. You run the next set, and it's like tournament stuff. So it's over a series of frames. So if you miss one in a set of 10 games or something you run over 2 days, then you might lose.
Have y'all played candlepin or duck pin bowling?
No.
Is one of them the strings that picks them up? Is that one of them?
No.
No, then no. I have no idea what you're talking about then.
So candlepin bowling, it's like bowling, but it's a smaller, like was it skee ball kind of
Okay.
size?
Yeah.
And they're candle like shaped instead of like the bowling pin shape.
Huh.
And so it's this, but the same like general concept. And then duck pin, I believe I haven't played that as much, but it's like a squatter, like bowling pin. So anyway, that's the New England thing.
Is that where you're from? New England area?
No, Georgia.
Oh, okay. So where the fuck did you learn that from then?
I'm married to someone who's from the Northeast.
All right.
got assimilated, as well as being
You gotta
a
learn some of
Patriots
those things.
fan. Yeah, you win some, you lose some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the Patriots now, right?
Instead of just winning them all.
Yeah.
Hey.
All right.
Yeah, I dealt with the disparate area kind of thing too. So I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, but my family were all Southerners. So like a lot of things that I know and that I do, I'm like, wait, is that not a Pacific Northwest thing? That's a Southern thing. Oh, very well. I don't know. I just grew up there, but was raised by Southerners. So like I got a weird mix of stuff. So it comes up sometimes. I have no idea which grouping some of the things I've learned in my life come from. So
I think it's good though. It's nice to have knowledge outside of your area, you know?
Well, aren't we all just bastards of the United States because we've like moved everywhere and we've been everywhere?
Yeah, it's weird like talking to like normal civilians when they're just like stayed in one spot. I don't know if y'all have ever been back to like your hometowns, but like when people like never leave and it's just like what are you doing with your life? Like like you got to go somewhere. Like go travel somewhere, like, you know, just get out of the fucking least state.
Like, the Walmart parking lot to do donuts in is like far enough, okay? That's like
Yeah.
I went all the way to the county line the other day.
Was that because you had to go to the not dry county?
Yeah. Why are you? Yeah. So, yeah. Anytime I like kind of start talking to people about my time and service of it, I'm like, yeah, I spent 12 years in Japan. They're like, you got to live in Japan for 12 years. I'm like, yeah, I've spent 12 years in Japan. It's just great. I'm pretty much half Japanese at this point.
Yeah, it's like you could just tell them you can go too if you really wanted to. Like,
Yeah.
you can
even
move.
visit.
Yeah, you can visit or just move, do whatever you want. But you know,
People don't realize they can just leave and go explore. It was crazy because I saw you on the beach in Okinawa and I was like, oh, hey, I know you.
Yeah, it was super crazy. Like this was like 15 or 16, maybe somewhere around there.
Did I have a baby at the time? I don't think I had a baby. That would have been 2014. So. Like, yeah. No, we hadn't seen each other since Afghanistan. And
yeah.
Wow. It is a small world.
I was a warrant officer and you were out.
Yeah. I was chilling on the beaches of Okinawa.
Yeah, one time I think it was in like 2007. I was in Djibouti, and I was flying out of Ethiopia, and I'm sitting there just having a couple drinks, and then I see one of my old gunnies, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And I was a civilian, and I was just like, "It was Gunny Doyle," which I don't think he wasn't a gunny when he got out, but that's how I knew him. Unfortunately, he took his life a couple years back. Oh. It was just always sad, but it was just like crazy, like seeing somebody that I knew in a totally different country. From my old unit.
Yeah.
Do you know, was his first name Dave?
Yes. David Doyle.
Yeah, so he was a tech controller. He was a tech controller. He retired as a master gunnery sergeant. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, he was real good friends with Roy.
I have his name on this wristband right here, actually.
Oh, wow. Yeah, he was a good dude.
Yeah, he was. Just didn't, and it's a whole different thing talking about the transition and suicide and how prevalent it is amongst veterans. And so I think it runs right hand in hand with the mission I'm trying to work with. I think there's a lot that are struggling with all of the same problems and just haven't potentially gotten there. And part of their solution was to just step away from it all and be on the streets and not having to worry about trying to fit in. And hopefully we can work to find a better solution than that.
Yeah, it's hard, like getting out of the military, because it's like especially when you go to like, to and from a war zone. Like you go from a war zone, then back to like the United States, where everybody's in comfort still, and it's just like it's hard to like really explain it to somebody that's never been to like a really shitty place. And it's just like, meanwhile, you're over here complaining about, somebody cut you off, like driving in your car. It's like, who cares?
Yeah.
Like,
It's perspective. People have limited perspective. I wrote about in the book how fucking furious I was. Like, I think I had anger issues for like the longest time because I was just so angry at all the Americans. I'm like, you're all fat. You're all like, don't like, you get to do whatever you want all the time. Like, I was just very angry. But it's interesting that you talk about like the transition for veterans, because I was talking to one of my friends the other day, and I was saying that, I think the mark of a transitioned vet is that they actually don't associate with the military at all. Like, they aren't part of like the vet groups. They're not part of like any, not saying that they don't have vet friends, but like they actively seek things that aren't centered around the military. And I think that's like the mark of a veteran who has fully reassimilated back into society. So, because I know the reason I say that is because there's a few veteran groups in San Diego specifically that I tried going to, and the last time I hung out with them, and they're all rehashing the same stuff, like, and I'm just like, can we just talk about like, hiking or like something cool, like something that's like not related to the military at all, like even though hiking is kind of related to the military, but you know what I mean? Like, talk about looking forward in life instead of reminiscing backwards. But I don't know.
Well,
I felt that place.
Yeah, I mean,
in the Body Keeps Score, he talks a lot about that too. That's like one state of their processing is looking backwards to that, and that being like a place you're kind of stuck in instead of really moving forward. Yeah, I guess maybe I was in my head as I was kind of like making a face as you said it, was thinking that if you still wanted to associate with veterans and groups, but maybe not do that, like don't do the let's talk about the worst times of my life stuff. That is bad, but that's not the same thing. I think what you're saying is you're in a group where what you still talk about is all of those times instead of finding those people who have that common history, but look forward, which I think is definitely a good point to make.
Yeah, those are two totally different. Like, I keep the bonds with military, especially because if you come across a military person, like you already have a comradeship that like is going to go beyond what you would normally feel with like a civilian. That's cool. But like, not just sit there and every time you see each other, like every day, sit there and talk about the same stuff. Cause I'm just like, man, I'm exhausted. Can we please have some like good stuff? Let's talk good things. Not positive vibes only, kind of, but like, like let's grow through, the stuff that we want to accomplish and not, rehash old shit. But
well, I think it's because like some people don't know that you can still do a lot of good stuff after the military. Like the military shouldn't totally define like who you are as you get out. Most people that I know, civilians, like when I first introduced myself, even for like years, like they don't know I was even in the Marine Corps, and I bring it up. They're just like, "You were a Marine?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like, like
you're like, "No, I am a Marine."
Yeah, so it's kind of funny.
Tattoo across your face?
What's
Come
up?
on. Where's your tattoo across your face?
Yeah, I have like one EGA, but it's like super small on my shoulder, and like unless you see it, even like civilian would never know what the fuck that is anyway. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually feeling I can say that about feeling like that's when someone who is fully transitioned, and because I feel so grateful to have moved out of that and on. And so I think I'm able to say that with like the grace of, I don't want to kill myself every single day. So it's great. I can move forward. But I think it was touch and go there for a while. But when I got out of the Marine Corps, I chucked everything into a bag and threw it away or gave it away like immediately. I had nothing to do. Like I was like, fuck the Marine Corps totally. Like didn't have any of my uniforms, didn't have any of that shit. I was like, I don't care. Don't talk to me about this shit. So I didn't talk about it for so long. Then the book came out and I was like, talk about it all the time. And then like, now I'm like, I think I'm good now. So I think everyone has to find their pathway of transitioning into society. But I know a lot of people struggle and end up on the streets for it.
Yeah, it's hard.
Sorry.
Somebody said the S word.
No.
Oh, is your alarm?
It's timers, yeah. The outside lights all turned off and then the doors locked and stuff. So
Oh, do you have the S word, not the A word? What family are you in?
I think he's got the S word.
Oh,
No?
I got.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You know what the S word is? If I say Siri, turn on some lights or something like that, your
Oh,
headphones
yeah.
are on,
Gotcha.
so yeah, it wouldn't matter.
Yeah. No, we're all, yeah. It's the A word, yeah, as Savannah said.
Now somebody at home is like, God damn it, turn the lights off now.
Yeah. That's why it's not headphones. We're good.
Yeah.
Oh, talk about anybody watching it later though.
Yeah.
Oh man.
All right, let's transition to some
let's
books.
see. Yeah, how about some of our favorite books we've read recently? I actually had a conversation. I'll do this one. I'll switch over to something that's a super fun types of books. I had a conversation with somebody today about happy, right? So like the idea that the god of happiness in the book series that Rasan and I really, really love. So in these series, the gods like powers all come from human emotions inside their worlds, right? And the more of that emotion that's generated within the world, the more powerful those gods can be, which means they can kind of use that mana and energy to kind of gain advantages against the other gods that are their brothers and sisters, right? And so his strategy for generating more happiness, and he's kind of kicking their butts by generating more happiness throughout the world than anybody else, is to create as much total shitty chaos as fucking possible, because people are never happier than that moment when they overcome the worst moment of their life. They're like, that was terrible. And then like you get through and you're like, yes. And you're so happy. It generates this massive amount of happiness. And then I was kind of explaining, I was like, because we were at work-wise, we were in some really tough, crappy spots right now. I was like, yeah, but get happy at the end of it. Once it's all done and we can put those things behind us, we'll be happy. And they didn't really get it. So I had to explain the whole god of happiness thing.
That's an interesting perspective. I like that.
It's do you know what a lit RPG is?
Literature role-playing game? Is that like?
Yeah, basically.
Literally.
Yeah, it's
basically,
basically, it's almost like you're reading a game. It's like this whole genre of books.
They're pretty good.
Yeah, it's like
Okay.
it's been my jam for a minute.
He got me onto those ones, but like the most popular, kind of about as close as it gets, is the Ready Player One stuff. Like it's about as close as it gets, but it's not really the same thing.
Yeah, no, it's I think
Adjacent.
Ready Player One is good. Yeah, but it's like
it's lit RPG adjacent.
Yeah. Still a good book though. Well, the first one anyway.
It is. Yeah. But yeah, so like what's that? Travis Bagwell, right?
Yeah, Travis Bagwell.
That's the author. Yeah. So that's for those ones. Starts with
Awaken Online Catharsis. Yeah. Off the top of my head.
Catharsis is the first one. It took a second, but it is easier to remember because that's kind of the whole premise of the thing. But it's such a great word too, catharsis. I think you actually used cathartic in your book at one point. I was like, yes, I know that word now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of new words. At work, my team will they're like, what the fuck does that mean, Savannah? Just because I read so much that I got random words floating everywhere. So they have a word of the day that they'll write up on the board, and they'll have everyone go and Google what it is. So
I get that through Webster Dictionary. It's every day. I get a word of the day from them. It's nice.
Do you want me to just text you a random sentence that I say?
Yeah.
Yeah. The way I play that game with students is I write the word on the board, and then I have everybody on a flashcard write down what they think the definition is without looking anything up. What do you think this word means? And it's usually a pretty obscure one. And then read off these very interesting definitions of what they think this word possibly be for the class. It's pretty fun little activities.
Do you give them context, or you just give them the word?
Just the word.
No context. That's.
Wow.
I think might be cool if you did context once, see if they come up with anything close. I don't know.
So it could be maybe once a week if they decide they can, because they get one each day. So hey, once per week you can ask for one of these types of context you want to use in a sentence. Do you want a synonym, or do you want okay, pick one, and you only get to use one each week, like the phone a friend stuff or whatever activities you have for Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you get some good, but it's just getting their brain going. It's usually one of the first things of the day kind of things. Sometimes you got to, especially the kind of these courses sometimes feel too long, but then they probably need to be longer kind of thing. So
yeah, you're changing the world.
Yeah.
The Marine Corps is doing a decent job. This is probably not the right time, but of trying to transition towards more student focused and actual scientifically proven learning strategies and all this other stuff that is not the way any of us ever went to any Marine Corps class. So this is the guidelines. The one that I think is going to kind of hopefully change things. I made one rule, which is that when we're building out our courses, the one method that my curriculum developers are not allowed to use is lecture. Like, you cannot put that in the course. Lecture is not an option. You can't just stand there and present the slides. I don't want any instructors doing that. So they have to find more engaging ways to go over the material. So.
Which is good because, learning computer shit can be kind of boring. I mean, unless you're really into it, which I mean I am, but still, it's still super boring to go through all that stuff because it's especially when you learn the base knowledge of it, going through TCP/IP stacks and stuff like that is just so boring. And especially when
but you get to take one step further back, even what is binary and what is electricity, and oh god, this is so bad.
I love teaching that kind of stuff, but it's gonna be one-on-one. Yeah, clearly you do. But it's gonna be one-on-one, and I gotta be all right, I'm gonna break it down. There's lights that go through a wire,
yeah. And it's what I'm really trying to get, because where I am now is I shouldn't need to be in every single classroom. It's not possible, but it's getting my sergeants and the staff sergeants to have the same excitement about finding creative ways to present that new information. So one of the ones I did was spot beams on satellites, and showing them well, just turn off the lights and get a flashlight and start pointing it at the wall and talk about distance and orbits, and you can cover it. And what? I'm do whatever you need to do to make the picture in someone's head make sense.
Yeah, but their thought box is so small because they've probably only been exposed to lectures.
Yeah.
I mean,
so some of them are getting better and better at it over the year that they've been here. I had one who just made senior instructor, and she came to me. She's like, okay, so what do I do next? What's the next mindset? Because next is master instructor, and it's very challenging to make those ratings alls in 4s and 5s, the best kinds of instruction. I said, okay, just this is one thing you can keep in mind, and this is we'll stop talking about instruction unless you guys really want me to keep going. But if you did this one thing for the next class, you'd be doing fine towards getting master, which is if you went through the entire class, going through all of the curriculum of instruction, and you did not ever answer a question directly to a student, you probably did it right? So if you never actually directly answer their questions, you've probably taught it better than if anybody else is doing it. Because what you should be doing is answering their question with the question, redirecting their question to another student, saying, hey, does that make sense to you? Does anybody have another way to explain it? If you never had to answer it directly, they had to think and generate the concepts, and all you did was confirm, yeah, cool, that's a really good way to look at it. That's pretty close to the way I would have explained it. I like it. All right, moving on. And if you never answer a question directly, you've probably done it right. So
it's a pretty good mindset.
It's also a little weird. It's definitely different than how we went through classes.
Yeah, honestly, because I just doing stuff on my own, just trying to figure it out. It's funny. I was reading your book, Savannah, and you were talking about the pinouts with RJ45 cables, and I was I haven't heard that shit in forever because I do fiber channel now. So for me, I don't really do anything Ethernet wise. But literally yesterday, I had to run a hard line from my house to my office. And I was just I haven't done this in forever. And so I got this thing. You can do this shit with no tools now. I was like, what? You can do these cables with no I was like, this blew my mind. And then I forgot how to do the pinouts. And I had to but there's a diagram right on the little, on the actual piece you're putting it on. I was like, it's too easy now.
Exactly. They haven't earned the right to use these cables. They come all pre-cut, and anyway, that it blew my mind when I realized you didn't have to do straight through or crossover anymore. You can just plug it in. It doesn't matter. What?
Auto negotiates. Yep. Yeah, definitely nobody. I don't know if you knew we were doing this, Savannah. When we got fielded those Mark 142 Charlies, nobody's having to do what we did, which was take the barrel connector, completely disconnect it, repin the pins to different ports on it, and then run it to Cat 5 on the other end because all the other equipment in it was a waste. We're why are we doing this? And people did that for 10 years, and it wasn't until I think it was 2021 when they officially published here's the mod to the Mark 142 to make it go Ethernet. I was I've been doing this stuff for 10 years, just modding the cables ourselves. This is crazy. Why did it take you so long to do stuff?
So honestly, I want you guys to know that the mindset the Marines have to get shit to work, it does not fly in other areas of the world. I have gotten not scolded, but because I'm in R&D, right? So, I was in R&D for 6 years, and now I'm back to operational stuff. But I'm can't we just do this? And they're no, because it could impact the world. And I'm but we could just do that and it would work. And they're
Would
like, we can't. And I'm like,
Yeah, but then that's a good point. But I've also seen like such bad like code. I remember there was like one time where it was like some stupid script, and it was like given the wrong output every time. And I was trying to explain to the guy that wrote the script. I was like, hey, like it's giving the wrong output every time. He's like, oh, all you have to do is just do this and like do some extra math afterwards. I was like, no, that's not the point of a script. Like it should just give me the goddamn output that I want. And he was just like, no, it's okay. And I'm just like, dude, just change it. And he just didn't want it. He was so stubborn. He just didn't want to change it. I'm like,
yeah.
I don't want to like run a script and then do like 2 + 5 × 4 some shit like that to get the actual output because of your messed up math in your script.
So there are benefits to a do it now mindset, and there are benefits to the let's do it right and do it well.
Yes.
Yeah.
I straddle that line hard. Just want to let you know.
Yeah.
And it's tough. That was one of the lines in that conversation about Happy today too, was like, look, the goal of bureaucracy, which is generally what the problem with most of that kind of stuff is there's these bureaucracies that hold on to all that stuff, is not what the reality of bureaucracy is. Bureaucracy is not intended to make sure that more people have jobs and that things take as long as possible for them to actually get done. That's not their actual purpose, but that's what they end up doing. They're there to make sure that, things are done right and that nothing, catastrophic happens, but
Right. I think
we've messed them up.
I was about to say that I think like we can get bogged down by bureaucracy. So like I think we should all take a hard look at like this is how it worked for a while. Layers were added to like fix stuff, but you can go back and reassess from the bottom up to make the bureaucracy better. Like you don't have to continue doing archaic ways of thinking, be it technology, governance. It's like there are all sorts of ways you can improve things. So
Yeah. I think somebody needs to tell the makers of Call of Duty that because I'm tired of fucking 100 gig installs. Just write the damn code over. Stop it.
Stop adding them.
Yeah.
And updating every other day because they fixed the patch or something on stuff too. How about just release a game that's done? I know we talked about that one a lot too. Release a game that's actually done. Don't release it and then patch it 2 days later.
Yeah, it drives me nuts. Or if I digitally download a game and then I have to have a DLC and I have to have a patch afterwards. It's like, no, just update the goddamn game that's digital. Like that should be one of the perks of being digital, right?
One
like,
download.
I get it when it's physical because I prefer physical. But if I'm downloading from somewhere, just update the original file with the fixed shit. It's not hard.
But they need to make cybersecurity updates. They have monthly remediations they got to go through. Yeah,
like, but you can just do it in the original file because when it's digital. I can understand after you already got it. Yeah, totally get your point there. But if it's like after the game already came out, they should update the original file that you're downloading it from.
Yeah.
It's one of my pet peeves.
I'm playing a game from many, many, many years ago, and it has an update, and I keep ignoring the update. And the other day, the PlayStation crashed, and Matrix was like, "It's been telling you to update for like a long time." I'm like, fuck it, I don't care. I don't care about the updates. Like, fuck the updates.
Which game was it? The Witcher you're talking about?
Witcher 3. Yeah.
Nice. Well, they had a major update. That's probably why.
Well, I'm avoiding it, so we'll see how it goes.
Oh, yeah, because it adds in the next-gen functionality and they added in a bunch of content for the game, so that's probably why.
I don't content. There's too much content already. Like, I'm freaking out. Like, there's contracts, there's secondary quests. Like, I can't keep track of all of it, so...
Talking about Witcher, that's like with Henry Cavill dropping off of Witcher now, too. Did you see anything about the fact that his next big project is a Warhammer 40K project?
Yes, super excited about that. So...
Yeah.
We lost him as Superman, and we lost him as The Witcher, but hopefully they can make Warhammer 40,000 finally work somewhere. So,
yeah. If anybody's going to push it, he's going to do it, so it'd be cool.
I love that he's a nerd, and he all the Witcher books, and he because I just finished The Witcher, the first one in the Witcher series.
I read that one too. Yeah.
It was. Do you read The Last Wish? Like, because evidently that's not the first one. It's like
they have a prequel one. Which one did I read?
The Last Wish is like a collection of some stories. That's the one I read, and I'm like, I'm lost, but this is a quest in The Witcher 3. So that was interesting. But yeah, they evidently there's quite a few, and for whatever reason, Audible doesn't have the second one on there, but it's got all the. I'm like, what the hell, Audible? Like, get your shit together. Yeah. So. Yeah,
I got upset. This had to have been a year or more ago. So Raymond E. Feist is like one of my favorite fantasy authors, and one of my favorite series he did was actually the second, well, I guess technically the third series he wrote. So he had like his main magician series he did. Then he did, because it's a really cool setup where he's got like a rift between worlds. And so that you follow it from the original world and there's like an invasion, basically is what it feels like. But then after he completely tells that whole story, he flips and tells it from the side of the people who needed to invade, and then tells why it made a whole lot of sense for their society to need that too. And you're like, well, crap, now I don't feel good about the fact that we were defending ourselves against these invaders, when you understand the plight that they were in too. But then there's a series that comes after that on like this other continent, and those were one of my favorite ones, but they had no audiobook versions. Those just came out like 2-3 months ago, and I just put all 4 credits in. I was like, yes, can't wait to actually listen to an audiobook version of it.
I guess I'll give my story about that too then. What was it? It was Isaac Asimov, the robot series.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were missing like one of the books in audiobook. I bought a physical copy, but I haven't read it yet. I need to read it so I can finish the rest of it. But that was like an interesting series because I started the series with like what was it called? Empire?
Not the Foundation.
Foundation, yeah. I started with Foundation. Okay. I had no idea that the robot series even existed. So I'm like, I'm listening to, Foundation. I was like, oh, it's a really good book. Like, but why aren't there robots in the future? Like, it was super weird. And then I got to like the end of the whole series, and it's like, oh yeah, there's like this whole like robot series like that happens before this. And I was like, oh. And at the end of the book, at the end of like the last Foundation book, it's like the
spoiler. I'm gonna read it eventually. Like, hold on.
Yeah, like definitely check it out. But I think it's actually kind of cooler starting with Foundation and then going back, because then like it's, to me, it was more interesting.
Foundation. I haven't I'm finished the first Foundation book, so I guess I'm following in your footsteps. I'm gonna go that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Because apparently, like, so I, Robot the movie, nothing to do with like it's just the same name, like nothing to do with the book.
When they do that.
Yeah, nothing to do with the book.
Not at all.
Can I talk about my favorite book that I read recently?
What?
Yeah, of course.
It's a super huge nerd book, so
it's the right crew here.
Fiction. But it was Grunt by, I believe, Mary. Don't remember her last name, but it's pretty much about the R&D that goes into military development and science, which she wrote Corpse or something like that. Cadaver. She wrote Cadaver also. So she goes into like what happens to cadavers and how they gather them and all that kind of stuff. So she does all sorts of scientific journalism, but she wrote about like R&D projects for the military and like how the different R&D people in America, which I think I might be nerding out to this because I was doing R&D for the military for so long. So like, I feel like that's why, but it was really cool because they did like, okay, so when you think about IED blasts, they were trying to make the vehicle safer, right? But if they were testing out on like the crash dummies that they use for cars, like they weren't working for IED blasts because IED blasts come from the bottom up. And so they have to like, and they just go into all these things that you don't think about. Same thing for like hearing, they did for like shark bait. Like there was a whole entire investigation into like how to get pilots to be more willing to get into aircraft over the oceans because they were worried about crashing and getting eaten by sharks. And so there's this whole entire investigation about how to make the science get sharks away from downed pilots. And like, anyway, like it was so cool, like to hear all of this stuff. So I don't know, it was all over the place and I loved it. And it was very insightful. And they talk about reconstructing penises, like you name it, like it's all sorts of cool stuff. So
there's a lot of stuff that happens on this planet that nobody has any idea like how it works. So that's always interesting to like get like the real inside scoop on like anything. Because like even the most mundane things have like some sort of crazy story and has considerations that probably none of us have even thought about. So
exactly. So like they talk about like how do you get corpsmen, to be ready to handle like live shit. Like, and he talks about how they had pigs on Pendleton, and
I was thinking pigs too. Yeah.
Yeah, they had pigs on Pendleton, and they would sit there and kill them until like the wrong group found out about it, and now they don't do that anymore. So, but yeah, like it was really cool.
Made them good.
I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, I mean, and in the world of simulation, they're doing a lot with being able to create simulation tools for that. So we don't need to use pigs anymore. But at that time when those kinds of tools didn't exist, that was really good training. Like,
oh yeah,
there's nothing that replicates like needing to find a vein in someone's leg while blood's slicked and blood is pumping out, and you're trying to get your fingers in there to get a hold of something. Now, luckily, they like actually got to see some demoed at this conference down in Orlando. It's called ITSEC, and they'll have leg sections that have been like a blown section and there's something, and then it starts coming active for you to do the test, and you have to like get your hands into the blood and try to find it, and it's very, very real. You're like, whew, okay, this is actually making me feel like this is a real leg. If you don't like pick your head up for a second and look and go, I am looking at a training leg. There's no other body attached to it. It's literally just a training dummy leg thing, and it's pretty real.
There's somebody like screaming too.
Well, that's what they did on Pendleton.
Yeah.
They simulated all the screaming and everything. So, so the great part about this writer is that she's fucking hilarious, and her wit is like dry humor. So she's a smart ass the entire time.
Right.
So it's really good. And so she talks about how one of the guys on Pendleton, they do that. They act like they're all blown up and everything. And how she writes it, I'm not going to be able to like retell it very well, but like essentially one of the guys actually had his leg missing anyway, and so he had a fake leg in there, and so like the student actually did think that he had like lost his leg because he did.
That's messed up.
What'd you do?
What did you
Where's
do?
my leg? I can't feel my toes. Like, yeah, I haven't felt them for years, man. It's okay.
Yeah.
That dark humor that goes with this though too. It's like not just dry, but also kind of dark. It's a little dark.
Yeah.
Funny.
We mess with each other that way. It's good. Yeah.
But that was my nonfiction recent read that I thought was enjoyable. So I'm kind of, I don't know. I love so many books. When you told me that you wanted to talk about books, I'm like, I am on it. What do we want to talk about? We want to do like classics. Oh, favorite all-time book. Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shantaram.
I have not even heard of that book.
So I think they're actually making it into a series on some network. So it is awesome because it is based on a true story of an Australian convict who escaped from jail and fled to India. And so in the 90s, he's living in the slums of Bombay, and he has adventures. He travels as a gun smuggler to Afghanistan. He does like all sorts of really cool shit. And it's like his writing is it's got jewels of wisdom and stuff. It's very good, like writing also. So I really enjoyed that book. It's got love and heartbreak and, war and betrayal, and it's based on this real story. So he took some artistic, freedom with some of the writing, but it's based on his life. So it's very good. So Gregory David Roberts.
So the way you spell it is Shantaram, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Gotcha. And it looks like there is a series?
I think they were signing up and they hadn't started filming or something. I don't know. They're going to fuck it up anyway. They always do.
Well,
I don't think.
It says 2022, so it came out, I think, last year. Yeah, based
Did
on...
it?
Yeah.
Not going to watch it.
It has Charlie Hunnam in it. Charlie Hunnam? What the fuck? Why is he in this? I'm thinking of like Indian people, and the first guy's a white dude.
He was an Australian, and he's been goes
of course
there.
The white guy. Like, come on.
Yeah, it's on Apple TV.
Oh, okay. Well,
Interesting.
I went to the library, and I like how I pick out books sometimes if I'm in the library is I will drag my finger along with my eyes closed and then just stop, and I'll take whatever book my finger lands on because I'm chaotic sometimes. And then it's like I'll pick the biggest book, and Shantaram was the biggest book. So that was
Yeah, it's 936 pages. So
I mean, but I didn't know Brandon Sanderson existed yet, and he's like,
yeah. Oh Jesus!
So, did you see anything about Sanderson's? I think, Cronus, we talked about it, that Sanderson like kind of backing out of Audible. You think about that, Savannah?
I started looking into it, and I was going to write about it because you were talking on Hafner's stuff, right? Like, because I am a small writer on Audible, and I was like, I wanted to know his like input on it, but at the same time, my payments from Audible are written in my contract with my publishing house, so it doesn't have anything to do with Audible itself. So I was like, I don't know if he's actually like, it doesn't seem applicable to me. And I was like, I'm tired of this. So
yeah. So the way he wrote it, and it may not be this way for yours either, is that because the publishers all know that they're all going to Audible, what they contract to is going to be basically the exact same thing as if you went straight to Audible for anybody who's, especially like first time authors. But his concern was just any other form from any other publisher, you get a much larger percentage of the money from your own creative endeavors compared to what it was there. And so he found some other platforms that, and his big concern was if he moved and got something else set up with them, and it was I don't know, it was kind of uniquely worded, but I can't remember how he said it, but basically like, are you just giving me the deal because I'm Brandon Sanderson, or is this the way this is going to go for other authors if they come to your platform? And they aren't going to give people the exact same deal, but definitely as far as he was saying it, when the numbers he had was better than what they were getting through Audible. But it sounds like yours isn't maybe that same like direct deal with Audible kind of thing, maybe.
not a direct deal with Audible. It's through my publishing house, and I get way more on Audible than I do by any of the other types of sales. I get 12% on hardcover, and I get 25% on Audible.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things I was saying was like the amount that
That's
you're
still
getting.
way too low is what he's saying.
It's too low. Yeah.
Well, especially because it's fucking digital. Like you don't need, it doesn't cost you any overhead to release another copy. And I know that with Kindle, with like all that. Don't even get me started. Yes, like you aren't having to pay to bind these things. Like,
nope.
Yeah, so
that's exactly what
that's where he's kind of, and he's trying to put some of his ass behind it. Basically, like, look, if I'm big enough now, because he didn't start that way. He's also the like crazily prolific writer, but he's like, if I suddenly pull out of all these major platforms and said there needs to be some equity for other authors who are trying to get started, and this is their creative material, they should be getting more of the profits from it. So I think he's just trying to take a stand against the current like monopolies, honestly, over at least writing, because you're going to sell your hard prints on Amazon, and then you're going to sell the Audible version for the audio version on Audible, and that's pretty much your only real options.
Yeah, man. I just went on because you just reminded me about the alloy of law, and it was
oh god, those are so good.
He has a leather-bound book of it, and I actually might just buy the bundle because I looked at it the other day and I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't buy it. But have you guys seen like the leather-bound books that he has?
No, don't tell me that. Like I can't afford this stuff. Like
yeah, it's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Like I have all of like my top shelf on my bookshelf is all Brandon Sanderson, but I don't have any of the metal books. Just mainly the Way of Kings and that area of the Cosmere. But
yeah.
But obviously you know about the secret novels, right?
No.
What?
I just listened to them. Yeah. Well, I know about the ones that are like, what was the one with I read one of the ones between two books. What the fuck was it called?
Wasn't Don
No,
Sharp.
like his big announcement on Kickstarter or whatever. That thing.
No.
We're part of Kickstarter. We're getting they're the secret novels, so we get extra Brandon Sanderson books.
I should have bought that back when he announced, because I remember we talked about it when he announced it, but I think at the time I was going through some shit. So
and I just didn't. I was trying to put everything into the novel. I was like, I can't justify doing that right now, and I'm really regretting it.
Oh, I'll let you guys know how it is then.
Yeah.
What if I still get it?
Appreciate it.
I probably can't get in it now, but yeah.
So
I actually can.
They all come out eventually. It's just that you get earlier access by doing it through the Kickstarters. The way I read it,
swag. So you guys are missing out on the swag.
Can we still purchase it? Probably not, right?
You're like, please. You can in the future when it's like for public release.
Yeah, but not the swag bags.
Matrix is already reading it. Like he's already in it.
They're not over it totally. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, one of the Marines here who read it connected the dots. I don't know if Matrix told you too, because she's gonna go work with Matrix, and was like, wait, that's not a very common name. That's got to be the same person. I'm like, yeah. So.
Oh, is she go into the Mew then?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think so. To just to the same unit, I think. But
Okay.
yeah,
Cool. I know. I felt like Matrix refuses to read my book, by the way. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, why? And he's like, because I fucking lived it with you. Like, why do I have
Yeah.
to read about it?
no, I'm good. So, maybe just to see how well you wrote it, but then I don't know.
No, he's like, you've written a lot of my college papers. I know you can write.
Yeah.
No, he's a good writer now. Now he is in practice.
Didn't want to be like any of those other E8s or E9s that have the worst grammar in their emails when you read it. And you're like, oh my God, man. How long you been doing this? And you knew at some point you're going to have to write something and you still didn't learn how to put two words together.
Still not a common thing. I had to take a technical writing class recently. That was nice, though. I actually learned some shit.
I was about to say, those are good. Like,
Yeah.
I like technical writing. Not doing it, but I like seeing it done well.
Yeah.
Who likes doing technical writing? That's a pain in the ass.
Well, I mean, I have to do it from time to time because I have to write root cause analysis and all kinds of like KBs and all kinds of shit. So it's always nice to write them better.
For?
HPE.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I got beef with HP.
No,
not
HPE.
No, I heard HPE, but before they split.
What'd you ever beef with? Like the server side or?
Do we want to go down this contracting rabbit hole?
I mean, I don't care.
Okay, so I was in Okinawa, Japan, right? Mm-hmm. I was a subcontractor for Hewlett Packard for a while on the NMCI contract out there. We were taking over the network from the Marines, or the Marines were getting back the network, right? So that's all happening. And yeah, I worked my way up because like when I got out of the Marine Corps, I was like, oh, shit, I don't like... And Matrix got orders to Okinawa. I was like, I don't know anyone in Okinawa. I don't know how to get a job out there. So like I started as a secretary working for facilities engineering. And that was insulting, by the way.
Yeah. I mean,
it was a rough like ego blow for me. But I worked my way into working for field services. And so I did that for a while and then like worked my way up to being a network engineer. And I got hired by HP as a network engineer. And because the reason I wanted to get HP is because then I could follow Matrix wherever he went. Because, you know, HP has the contract for, well, had the contract. I don't know about it now, but they had the contract for all Marine Corps bases essentially. And I was like, I'm a shoo-in, right? So I sacrificed a lot, got hired by HP, had my child, he had health problems and I had to go back to work early because they were going to fire me because he got medevac to Hawaii for surgery. And so like anyway, it was awful. I came back and they're like, the only reason we didn't fire you is because the Marine Corps likes you so much. We're going to keep you. And that's like what my HP hiring manager that was in Okinawa was saying. And I was like, that's kind of shitty. And then I'm like, oh, by the way, when my son was recovering from his surgery, I went and got CCNP. You fucking asshole. Like, I'm just furious the whole entire time because like I had gone to like do this. And he was like, oh, okay, well, do you want to like a raise? Because I was
It's an interesting question. Why do you have to ask somebody if they want a raise?
So I was being billed and paid as a junior network engineer, and they were able to, with my CCNP, bill the Marine Corps for a mid-level engineer. And I was like, yeah, of course. He's like, okay. So my charge code changed to the mid-level. A month goes by, I don't see an increase in my paycheck, and I go talk to my the guy, and I'm like, hey, I remember his fucking name too. I hate this guy. Anyway, and I was like,
I don't know him, so it's fine.
And I was like, I haven't seen an increase in this. And he's like blowing me off this whole entire time. And like, I'm getting fed up and I'm like, okay, I understand your position is not like actually charged to the government. So how it was working was that he wasn't part of like the TO for his salary. So he was billing the government for me as a mid and he was taking the money and putting it in his own salary.
Damn. Did you dirty?
And I was like, but I had no proof. I just know that's what was fucking happening. So I was like, I'm charging the government this code that is a mid-level engineer. I'm not getting paid as a mid-level engineer. I was upset. But Matrix got orders to North Carolina. And I was like, all right, cool. This is what I like prepped for. I'm with HP. I'll just be able to transfer over. And so I call up the East Coast HP people and I'm like, hey, I'm coming out. Do y'all have any positions open? And they're like, he got orders to Cherry Point. And they were like, yeah, we have one position in New River for a senior engineer. And like New River, Cherry Point is
Not close.
kind of a drive.
Yeah.
Like, and I had a 9-month-old baby at this time.
Oh.
Like, and they were like, it's a senior position. You need CCDP, CCNP, and CISSP. And I didn't have CCDP. I had CCDA, but I didn't have CCDP, and I didn't have CISSP. And so I was like, oh, I don't have those certs yet. They're like, well, you need them by the time you would come on board, which is in 2 weeks. And I'm like, I can't do that. And they're like, there are ways to do that. And I'm like, that's not ethical. Like, that's, that's what they had told me across over the phone. And I was like fighting with like myself, and I was talking to Matrix. I'm like, I don't know, like what I should do. Like, should I and he's just like, he's supportive all the way. And I like call them up and I'm like, I can't do it. Like I can't drive 90 plus minutes a day with a child that fucking hates the car seat. And like, but I was like, I had asked them what the salary was going to be. And they're like, oh, well, it's going to be what you're getting paid in Okinawa. Like, you're not going to get like a raise, like at all.
For a
So
higher
I would
position?
actually be making,
Fuck that.
I would actually be making less money because I would be getting taxed in America.
Yeah.
So anyway, they were like, yeah, 67,000, take it or leave it. And I'm like, leave it, thanks.
Yeah.
And so they proceeded to blacklist me from every HP contract as a subcontractor, and I could not get a job anywhere in Cherry Point, North Carolina. And so I had to leave North Carolina and come to California on my own because I could not get a job.
Well, sorry to burn you, but
that was a long
yeah. I honestly
No, that's good.
I've worked for HP
That's what we do.
for a long time, but I didn't actually. So what happened was I used to work in Qatar, and I'm a sand guy. So I was working in Qatar for a while for Dell and EMC, and I wanted to come back home for my family. And I interviewed with a company called 3PAR for like a couple times when I was over there. And I remember I came home on like a Sunday, and my interview was like on a Monday. And I got the job, and then literally I told them I just needed a month off because, when you come back from being overseas, you don't want to just go right back into work. So I took the month off, and like in the middle of me taking the month off, they got bought by HP. So that's the only reason why I work for HP, but I still work for just like 3PAR shit. So all the other HP stuff, you can talk all shit about them all you want. So yeah, I don't care.
I heard that like they could be good. I think it was just that manager and then like the hiring manager for NMCI on the East Coast. It was just they were pulling shady stuff.
Yeah.
Because I was like, ain't nobody gonna do CISSP, CCNP, and CCDP for $67,000. You can go fuck yourself. Like no one's doing that.
Yeah. I mean, I've gotten screwed. Like remember when I first got out, I was a disaster recovery specialist for a company, and they were paying me like $55,000, and I actually set up their first sand, and they were paying me $55,000. And I asked for a raise, and they told me no, they couldn't justify it, and they gave me a bad review, and I was like, what the fuck? And so I was like, all right, well, I'm just gonna quit. And they literally plagiarized my resume and then put in for the salary $75,000. And I was like, I almost sued him, but I was just like, it's not worth it. So
the practices that go on are just, it's awful, and like the employees get fucked over hard.
Yeah.
I mean, now I'm a federal employee, so I get fucked over hard no matter what when it comes to salary. So I went from having a nice chill job, and now I'm like, oh, it's hectic, and I don't get paid anymore. So that's nice.
Well, you get sort of job security.
Oh, I definitely have job security. I get holidays off, and I get every other Friday off. Like the perks are pretty decent, but like the stress is now,
Yeah, that's one thing that I stepped away from a long time ago was like the general stress of IT. So I'm not on call anymore. I only work 4 days a week, and I work from home. So yeah.
That's the dream job.
Yeah. I definitely need the less stress, especially at this point in my life.
Yeah. Been a stressful couple months.
Yeah. Anyway, back to books. I think Papa Bear, have you read the Cradle series? I'm pretty sure you have, right?
Yeah, I got caught up in them. Yeah, they're good.
Because I think there was a book that came out and then you didn't see that it came out. It was Dread God, right?
Yeah, I had no idea the most newest one came out. What was that when it was
Just like back in like
I can't remember what it's
2022.
called.
Dread God.
Yeah, Dread God. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I had not read it, but so it was right at the same time as the new Sanderson book came out too. So I was like, crap. So I just like they went back to back. So my normal rule is kind of similar to Rasan's, but like I do try to do like some kind of personal and professional development book, and then do like just a for fun book. I was like, nope, I'm doing two credits fun books because these are like the series I'm embedded into. So I wanted to get both of them. So
Yeah. So
there may have been a Awaken Online one at the same time too. So it was just like a flurry of the 3 series we've been talking about mostly. I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna get them all.
that happens. Yeah. Savannah, have you heard about the Cradle series?
No, I just Googled them.
It's pretty good.
It looks like a lot, and
They're shorter books though.
They're pretty short.
Yeah.
so I'm in the middle of like a lot of series. I
Oh.
need to like dedicate myself
Yeah.
to finishing one. I can't even remember all of them. My phone has all the notes on it. But Wheel of Time, I'm on book 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you watch the show at all?
Like the first 3 episodes or something, and I was like, this is so poorly done and slow.
It was really slow.
It got a little better, but I don't know. I think I was kind of on the fence about it because they made some changes that I think made sense only because of the length of the book. And there's like a lot of times where it's just like, not a lot of times, but there's some points in the book where it's like you don't have to like kind of go into that much detail on like a certain thing that's not directly connected to the story. But at the same time, yeah, they could have made it more action packed. But I don't know. I hope they make another season so they can make it better. So I like giving people second chances if they can make it better. So
Not when it comes to books. Look, like I started reading The Shack. I got so pissed off. I like threw it across the room at one point, and I never picked it up again.
The Shack.
Yeah. It's like fireproof. If you are familiar with that concept. It's Jesus stuff, and I hated it.
Yeah, I don't do that.
Fireproof was good.
My parents sent me this book because they think I need Jesus, and I was so furious the entire time. Clearly, I do need Jesus. What else? Stormlight Archives. I have to finish. Wheel of Time. What's the book series about the guy that fights all of the different cool? Not The Witcher, but I guess I'm in the middle of that one too. He's a detective, and it's fantasy stuff. Oh my god, why am I blanking on his name? Anyway, y'all can keep talking. I'm gonna look up this guy.
All right. So the Cradle, we didn't talk about the actual book. It's a really cool series for anyone that's listening. It's kind of like reading a really cool kung fu flick. Like somebody ends up being like this really bad kung fu badass with like special powers, and it's like it starts off in like a really small town, and then it opens up into like a kind of a larger area on the planet, and then it kind of goes like universe wide and possibly even into multiverses, and it's pretty crazy because if you get to like if you get to a certain level of badassness on any planet, you can just ascend and be kind of like a god, and you can like just destroy planets like kind of at will. And there's like this whole group of people that are that have ascended that protect other planets from like incursions or crazy assholes. So it's like when you first start reading the book, it seems like so like microscopic compared to like the later books, and you're just like, oh, there's like this whole like different like universe thing that they just kind of touch on a little bit, but they're kind of building towards like some of the characters like, you know, getting bigger and bigger. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's like one of the most fun books that I've read in my life, and it just keeps they keep getting better and better. Like I don't think he's missed a book.
No, it's been great. So, like thinking back to the first though, because the way you described it, like it's at such a small level, where especially like power levels and like their abilities. But when you're in that book, it didn't feel that way. It felt like he was challenged. It felt like everything was really, really difficult. And then you come to find later, like you said, like as you learn more and more, you're like, holy crap, that was like
It's
level
like
0 stuff.
Yeah.
It's like
Starting area.
It's like Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
there's always a bigger enemy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we did bigger fish. The like, what was it? The Body Remembers, or The Body Keeps the Score book. In it, he said a line specifically talking about, like, I think it was on the, like, constantly revisiting those old traumas as we're working through them. And the way he said it was something about, like, it constantly eats at your core. And I'm out, like, on a 6-mile run, and it talks about eating at your cores. I was like, it's a good thing I got 2 cores.
Yeah.
So in the book, yeah. It kind of ties to the book. But that was the first, it like immediately popped in my head. I was like, oh, that's funny. So,
did you find the book, Savannah?
I did the series. It's called The Dresden Files by Jim Butcher.
Yeah, Dresden.
Like, come on, fantasy detective dude. Like, yeah. Did y'all ever read those?
No, but I'm writing all your books.
So my first exposure to it was the show, because it's actually a TV show too.
God, I can't do it. Like, or not a watcher. It kills me. Well, I mean, so they're simple books, right? Like they're pretty easy reads, simple, like, probably, I don't know, probably like teenage level books to me. Like that's what it feels like. But it's like
Boxcar Children, or what's the other ones?
Sparkly Vampires.
Mighty Boys.
Twilight.
Yeah, that's nice.
They're
I mean, size wise too, they're small.
Yeah. My kid's reading the first book of the Narnia series.
Nice.
So I'm like, he's in it, and I'm like, yeah, we're on, buddy. Like we're gonna do this. I'm excited. But yeah, I'm in the middle of the Dresden Files and haven't picked up one of them in years, but they're out there.
Speaking of like kids books, have you seen like the Mina Lima books at all? It's like they make books of other books. Like, so I have a Harry Potter Mina Lima book. Are you familiar with those at all? Mm-hmm. So they're really cool because it's the whole book. So I got like the first Harry Potter book, but it has like, it's really artfully made, and some parts are like pop-ups, or it has like really intricate like paper diagrams and shit like sprinkled out throughout the book.
Oh, I have that for the Harry Potter books, but they're the illustrated versions that are very big and very nice.
Mm-hmm.
I have those for like 5 of them. Yeah,
it's not like the big giant ones. It's like they look sort of normal sized, but they have some gold foil on it. And yeah,
if you have it, why aren't you showing them to us right now?
Oh, I can show you one. Hold on. That's right. We're on the internet. I can do that.
Yeah.
Like if it's in
you have a copy there in the room.
Yeah, I have to go. I'm like far away from it. I have to like walk to my actual house.
Where are you?
I'm in like a separate building. I'm in a shed.
In the workshop shed thing. Yeah. Have you guys seen the audiobooks only? I think the author's name is Jason Manbeck or something like that, and he does all of like the fake kids books, fake children's books. Like it's a children's story. It reads like a children's story, but it's like go the fuck to sleep. And it's done with. So Samuel Jackson does that one, and then like you have to fucking eat is Cranston. Oh god, I can't think of his first name.
Bryan Cranston.
Bryan Cranston does that one. They're pretty funny. I keep those downloaded on my Audible. Just to keep them there for every once in a while. I'm like, you know what? So they're on. It's 5 minutes long. I just need to hear him just fucking cursing nonstop. Like this.
That's a very Marine thing to do with your kids. Go the fuck to sleep.
My kid's been really into the Cat Kid Comic Club and the other dog. Was it I don't know. So Dave Pilkey, who did Captain Underpants, has like a whole entire other stuff, and they take like classic books like Crime and Punishment, and now he's got Grime and Punishment, or like he does a play on all of those, and it's kind of cool. But they do like moral stories, and today I was talking about they're talking about Jim Crow laws in school and like all this other kind of stuff. So we're talking about skin color and like making sure not to judge people by skin color. Now I was talking about how trying to hit it hard like early and make sure that he realizes, because we live in a very white neighborhood, and I'm like, you realize that like you are a very microcosm of like the universe of like experiences and all this other kind of stuff. So anyway, and we got to talking about how women have it harder in certain ways than men because of how they get treated, And he was like, oh yeah, I know, because they work harder. And then he like spiels off, and I'm like, where did you hear all of that? And he's like,
You?
no, that's why I was like, have I been ranting? He's like, no, it's in Cat Kid Comic Club. They have like
Oh.
a whole entire thing. And I'm like, what? Like, so evidently like they're going into like misogyny and like some Cat Kid Comic Club like lessons. Like they hit it pretty hard. Like the guy's a single dad in the book, and he's like anyway, they have some interesting lessons for children.
You know what that means? That shit is definitely banned in the South.
We don't have free thought in Georgia, okay?
Not allowed in schools.
That's so crazy. Oh, that's good.
I will
though.
say, like, the new Jim Crow, I think, was
That's
a
great
pretty
book.
big one I've read recently. Was really good.
Yeah.
And then what was the was that? That's not that one. That's more about the incarceration, but the redlining one that we talked about too. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, it's God damn it. Now that you said it, I forgot it. Yeah, I think I
Sorry.
recommended it to you.
Have
Yeah,
y'all
those
read
both are
Just-
ones you told me to.
Yeah.
What's up?
Have y'all read Just Mercy?
No, but I think that's on my
Mhm.
list.
It's fantastic. Very eye-opening. Like I tried to hit, because I realized like I heard somewhere, I can't remember where, but like if you look at your bookshelf, like the majority of the writers are probably white. Like what are you doing to like colorize your bookshelf essentially? Like make sure you're hearing voices that aren't just ones that reflect you. And I was like, I looked at my bookshelf, I'm like, oh shit, they're all like English people. So,
Well, especially if you're going for the classics.
well, yeah, I'm doing the classics, but like 100 Years of Solitude is actually Colombian. So I made it a goal of mine
For
to
Spanish.
read a book from every country that I can. So that has actually been proving to be harder than you would think, right? Like, because it's hard to get books that have been translated for one, and then like, that are out there, and Google is not giving me a lot of like stuff. So anyway, if y'all have any recommendations for non-American and European authors, please let me know. Because I've gotten some African continents too. But anyway, about it's decolonize your bookshelf was like the suggestion. So I started going through, and Just Mercy was great. So you want to talk about race, the classic slave narratives, which was very interesting. I have that one on my bookshelf, but it's like actually written by slaves, like either word to someone who could write it down, or like the actual slaves writing it themselves. Oh goodness, all sorts of, like Booker T. Washington. I read some of his stuff, like just trying to be more open about all this stuff. I'm like, man, I didn't know any of this shit, and it's been an eye-opening couple of years. But
That's how my partner's been kind of the same way. She's been actually me too. I've been picking up like a lot of different books. Here's another book that I think you can read that's not American. It's the interesting narrative of the life of. I'll have to probably write it down for you because I cannot pronounce this dude's name. It's Ulada.
I got it.
Yeah, you got it.
Yep.
You already read the book, or you just looked it
No,
up? Okay.
that is one of the classic slave narratives.
Yeah, that when I read that book, it really defined to me that there was like, because in America, people they talk about, oh, there was slavery everywhere, across the world, and America didn't do it first. I'm like, okay, but we still did it. So, but there's also like a huge difference between like chattel slavery and like African slavery, and reading that book really hammered it home. Like people think that the chattel slave in America is the way that every single slave was treated throughout the world, and that was just patently not the case. When you read this book, he explains like because when he was a kid, he became a slave in Africa, and then he got exported to other countries, and I think he got to see parts of Americas as well. Yeah, he did. He went to parts of the Americas, and when he saw like the treatment of slaves there, like it's a very stark contrast. I'm not saying that one form of slavery is better than another, but one of them is definitely much less brutal. So, and that book really lays it out. So
Yeah, he like his story was part of the classic slave narratives. It had Frederick Douglass, him, the history of Mary Price, a West Indian slave, and then Incident in the Life of a Slave Girl. So all of those are in these like, because they're decently short. They would probably be in like the novella range. So if you put them all together, they're like this big. So It's a very good collection of stories.
Oh, here goes one. You have to find this on hardback, but give me a second.
Now I want to see what, like, is that stacks of paper he's got in the back? What's going on here?
The boxes,
Yeah.
those are comic books.
Oh my God.
Yes, that's his comic book collection.
Oh yeah, I'm a nerd. I mean, come on.
Like, are there boxes of paper back here? What is this behind him?
Oh yeah, those are all comics. I read lots of comics as well as books. This book might be hard. It's going to be hard to look at, but this book is called Without Sanctuary, and it's a picture narrative of lynching in America. And I've went through some of it. It's hard for me to like read the whole thing right now, but it goes through like the actual pictures of what people did to African Americans in America throughout history, and it goes through like, I think it goes even through like the 60s of like what happened, and there was like stuff I had no idea that they were like literally eating people, like they would hang them or burn them alive and then eat parts of their body. And one of the crazy things about this picture, like even just on the cover, there's actually a kid that's like right here. Like just, can you imagine taking your fucking child to something like that? There's parts of this country that has been like so covered up with just like crazy atrocities to like so many fucking people. And anytime you try to bring it up, people like they get into like, anytime you like touch their comfort, there's like, they get like this crazy, backlash. I think it's where we get like the Karens and like these, I don't know what they call the dudes, Kens or whatever, where you get them from. It's just like anytime you touch any of those little soft spots where they don't want to see it, they get fucking insane. But it's like, this is how these people were. And these people that are in these pictures, they all had kids. And I'm pretty sure they didn't teach their kids that black people are fucking cool.
Yeah.
But that's another book if you want to have another fucked up book on your shelf. So, but I wouldn't like display it because it's atrocious. Anyway.
Well, that goes back to the whole discomfort.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was.
Yeah, you're not going to grow unless you go. Like, I will admit, reading some of Malcolm X's stuff has been like, it's been cringeworthy for me. Like, I'm like, oh Jesus, like, and just to realize the plight of so many people, and they're very uncomfortable. So Just Mercy Just Mercy goes into the incarceration of Black people and how to get them out of it and how just incarceration has worked in general. So it's it sounds like the new Jim Crow does that too.
Yeah. They break it down really well.
Okay. So
it does. I think it's probably the best breakdown of it. And it sounds like you said Just Mercy, but it might have a broader picture, whereas the new Jim Crow focuses specifically in on the fact that, and it gives you a good history to it too, so you understand like what was Jim Crow, so you understand it better, because a lot of people probably didn't really understand it going into that book, and then breaks down how mass incarceration is basically our new version of doing the same thing, where we're marginalizing a whole group of people in the United States. So
yeah, it's just for like
my biggest frustration with those, and then the redlining one. Did you figure out the title?
The Color of Law.
The Color of Law. Yeah, those two, like, for me, why those hit harder, and Rasan knows this, is like, I'm a political scientist at heart. I'm the guy that looks at the system and the constructs and the rules and the actual laws and the stuff that we have in place, and says like, and I read books like those and I go, okay, so if that exists, how do we remove those programs? What changes can I implement like in the next few years to change that? So I always look for those kinds of things.
Read Just Mercy, because he talks about that. Like he's trying to cancel it.
And I think that the new Jim Crow, it does too. It at the end says these are the things we can change and make this better. So.
Yeah, same thing with the Color of Law. Like I like when they do that, when you have like show the problem and then show like possible solutions, because I think that really helps a lot of people, because then you can, like, the work's done for you pretty much, Yeah.
There's no
and maybe you don't agree with one or two of the solutions, because you're like, oh, I think it'd be better if we did it this way. All that matters is that we're trying to do something to make it better. So.
Yeah.
Because there were a couple of them, I think I remember telling you, I was like, I read one, I was like, knowing the way some of the other laws work, that's not going to work on its own. You have to do this thing and then that thing maybe to be able to get there. So,
You know, it's even talking about, like, when you talk about mass incarceration, like, people will acknowledge that it exists, but then one of the first steps that there's like probably 2 or 3 steps you have to take, right? One of them would be to figure out the scarcity with certain, you know, neighborhoods. Like, addressing scarcity would address a lot of the problems in America. And I think the second issue is policing in America, and nobody wants to touch that shit with a 5,000-foot pole, because it makes people uncomfortable, because they think that America has like a fetish with punishment, and they fucking love when people get punished. It doesn't matter what you did or what the circumstances were. They just want you to see. They want somebody to be punished. As long as you don't know, especially when you don't know them, and it's really gross, because you see these people that have done super minor crimes, you know, that are getting thrown away for like 20, 30 years or to life, and then once you're in the system, like, it's very, very hard to get out.
And you become a repeat offender.
Yeah.
Like, you can't get a job anywhere. It's just what makes me furious is how many people were still, and I think still are, in jail for minor possession of marijuana in states that are legal, like in California. Like, oh, I'm still serving a sentence. Like, yeah, the law was broken then, but we realize how dumb that fucking law was. So
beat that shit. They need to be out.
Why are you still in jail? It's complete utter bullshit.
It's because they're making money, and nobody wants to be honest about that. Those private prisons, even like the ones that aren't private, but they're mostly private, they're making money off of those bodies, and that's the issue.
I need to read more up on it, but I feel like the things I've read so far, I don't have all the details, but that it seems like Oregon took it to 11 and did it right. So they went all the way with removing the minor possession stuff, and I do believe they basically had a not like hey, just everybody out in the same day, because then it'll just flood the system. But there was like a timed process to bring people in, so they could bring them, give them case managers, get them to a place, next group. So they're getting everybody out in a timely manner. But I'm pretty sure in Oregon, at least, because they did the like all currently illicit drugs or whatever, individual possession, not illegal. So if you have like a manufacturing and any of the other stuff that could end up being a criminal charge, but like if you have drugs on you that are like personal use level type stuff, you probably need counseling or need to figure out, or maybe need some training, maybe need help rather than prison. That's the policy now in Oregon. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Y'all read?
Go ahead.
Have you read Johann Hari, Lost Connections?
No.
So he talks about. He also wrote Chasing the Scream, but his. I think Chasing the Scream is the one that goes through why people do drugs and how to like get people off of doing drugs. And Lost Connection goes into it too, like that we are a connective people. Obviously, we've moved away from that, but he discusses whatever European country, Switzerland or Sweden, which provides Narcan consistently to get people off of these places, and they completely criminalized all of it. Yeah, they decriminalized all of it, gave Narcan, and then they had the social support systems to back up people getting sober. So, like, if you came in to get your Narcan, here are people for employment. Here are people who can help you learn how to get over your trauma. Like, they do all of that, and it's there. And so, like, I thought that was very interesting. He goes into all of that.
No, I mean, other countries do it, but don't get me wrong. Like, America is obviously different, but I think that we can still adopt some lessons learned from other countries. Mm-hmm. You know, when it comes to here in America, like, if our criminal justice system worked, then why are we not rehabilitating our prisoners? It's supposed to be the correctional, right? Like, but they don't correct anything. They throw them in a box so they can be away from society. They kind of rot in there for a while. They lose money and they toss them out, and they have to put down, you know, that you've had a felony, so you can't get a job, and then you're tossed right back into scarcity. And that's probably one of the main reasons why you got put in jail to begin with, is because something was scarce in your life.
Don't forget that the felony thing on your record means you also can't vote.
Yeah.
Right. Supported people that are supported well rarely find the need to rob or kill or, you know, do all of the other things that people get incarcerated for. Like, we need to have a better supportive system at like the family level, all the way out to the community level. Like, we need to have more connection and support.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
But we live in this, our society is the individualistic society. So, this the American way to pretend that we're all doing this on our own when we're really not. I mean, all of us are, even just getting to work. Like, you have to go on a road that somebody else built. You have to hop in a car that somebody else assembled. Like you're not walking to work every day. You're not just, unless you're a goddamn farmer and you're literally farming your own shit. Like you have to rely, even the farmers have to rely on somebody else to like to like help them out with something. But I think we've been so ingrained in America to just think that no, we've done all this stuff on our own. Like we're all just individuals and we don't need help from anybody. I don't think that's helping us at all at this point in our society. I think it's to our detriment.
Yeah, mass independence is detrimental for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, like something I was listening to, I can't remember if it was the fundraising one or when I switched back to the book now, but like it talked about, because of being social creatures, no matter what, even if you're someone who is very like, what's it called when you don't want to be around people? I can't think right now.
Antisocial?
Yeah, thank you. So if you're like, antisocial, introverted, or whatever, if you're more of a person who's like, I don't really like to be around a lot of people, maybe you just want to sit in your room and listen to music made by someone else. Like it's still not, you can never really be fully isolated in those kinds of things. It's allows you, maybe large gatherings aren't your thing, but you're still, like you said, driving a car that was manufactured by somebody on a road that was built by somebody. Those connections still exist, but we need to probably do better at is recognizing them and reinforcing them. So even for those who are more introverted, more away from other people, if they're taught by their parents and their family or their friends or whatever, like those things that you do still have connections to people, and just focusing on those connections a little bit.
It's related to this. I wanted to point out that I went to the Salt Lake City Public Library like last month, and I was like talking to the librarian, and there was Narcan on the counter, which was like my first experience, like being that like up close and personal with Narcan or anything like that. And I looked around, and like, sure enough, the majority of people who were in the library were homeless. And like, it didn't bother me at all. I was there to work because I was trying to work remotely. And it was just it was almost surreal because like Salt Lake City is fucking freezing, and I'm used to San Diego where people sleep outside, and I don't have to think of them. Like, I do think of homeless people, and I think about like how fortunate they are to be in San Diego because they're not freezing. So seeing it in Salt Lake City, I'm like, oh, these people might die tonight, like on the street. Like that's awful. And like, it was just very like in my face, like, oh, you're going to go to a warm home and like with lots of food and lots of whatever, you're going to be very protected. And it was just like, oh, this feels uncomfortable. And I am not comfortable with this. It was like all over again. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the first time I had like a thought along those same lines was I was in Pattaya in Thailand, and there'll be sleep like right on the beach. Everybody's just kind of like not going to a home, whether you're passed out because you're in Pattaya and you're on the beach, or because you're actually homeless. But there were just people just camped right along the road there. And Pattaya is a beautiful temperature and humid like all the time, all year long, no matter what. It's always around the same. And I was like, this wouldn't happen in Chicago in the winter. Like, no, you could die if you're out on the streets in the night in Chicago. And that would have been, 2007 or 2008. And these little seeds, I guess, they kind of grow in your mind over time and end up becoming something else. But
it's interesting because I mean, there are people that are unhoused in like places that freeze. I mean, there's a lot in New York. There's some in Chicago. But what people like to trivialize is that they'll say, look at these, they'll name like some liberal city, like, San Francisco, especially because there's a huge issue there, or, New York's not really on that side, but, they usually point to San Francisco and they're like, or Oakland. And it's like, well, look, they get all this help there, blah, blah, blah. Like, we don't have homeless, in Montana or wherever. It's like, well, first of all, there's nobody fucking there. All right. And then second of all, nobody's going to help them. Is that more of a, what does that say about you or that place rather than San Francisco? Like, yeah, it's an issue, but at least they're getting some sort of assistance there. But you're saying that where you live, you wouldn't give them any assistance and you just let them fucking die? Like, is that what we're really saying here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So does the translation become, instead of there being people who are alive and being, probably supported by a system that everybody else is taking care of, are there just a bunch of blank headstones in some graveyards there in your town?
Yeah, exactly.
Who
But
knows who the hell that person was and they buried him?
yeah, it's just people don't think about that stuff though. They just want to put it. It's the comfort level, they just want to be comfortable.
Don't face that uncomfortable truth. Yeah.
So my first interaction with a homeless person in Japan was interesting because I was with some Japanese coworkers at the time when I was being a secretary. And we went out to lunch and we saw someone and they were very drunk and actively like coming after us, which was a weird experience for Japan. That does not happen, right? Yeah, that's like but he was just like following us down the street, like kind of near American Village. And when we started talking about it, and these, like, my coworkers were born in Japan, Japanese, in their 50s, little old ladies, and they're just like, because I was like, oh, we should probably like give them money or yen or something, and they're like, no. And I'm like, what? And they're like, we do not help homeless people here, because if they're to the point where they are homeless, they have completely scorned everyone in their community and in their family to where they are now a problem that society does not want to deal with. And that was 100%. They're like, no, that is a person, like, if they're homeless, they're evil, like bad. And it was like, they're because of the culture of Japan is that you take care of your own. Like, it's not like in America where you don't really, interact with your family maybe, or you move away or something. Like, they're very culturally like tight. So they're like, no, if he is not being taken care of by his family, he must have done something awful. And so they just like completely were like, he is a bad person. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So
Yeah.
But it starts with that foundational piece. Like you said, like it's a little more, I guess it's a little easier to accept that position when you're like, if the society is close and everybody takes care of each other, and like he's gone through layers and layers and layers of potential support and has burned all those bridges somehow. It's like, can anyone really help this person?
But also, I think it's like, that makes a pretty broad, like, assumption, right? Like, what if the person like literally had no family?
well, and that is unfortunate. But I think like Okinawa has a ton of people and you don't see homeless people. So I think that was just what they were saying did not seem far-fetched. And I'm not saying that, like, because even there were parts of, because I lived out in town, part of the villages that we like lived in, there were people who did not have family, but they had their community.
The village, the village will do it too,
village.
more
So
than just the family.
if you didn't have family, you were being taken care of by like the little kid. I'm segueing a little bit, but the little kids that would go and walk to school, all the little old ladies would walk out to their front porch and watch them walk to school, even if they didn't know them. And when the schools would have their cleanup events, the entire community would come, including the little old grandmothers that don't have any family. Like, I loved Japan for that reason.
Yeah, I love it so much.
Japan does like a lot of stuff like way better than most countries. Like, I love how they do like most of their schooling. Like, the kids will actually like make the food and clean up like the bathrooms and do all the custodial work. Like, there's a lot of schools in Japan that don't even have like actual custodians there anymore because that's what the kids do. And I think that's the way to go.
The families on, like, was it Sundays or Saturdays or Sundays, they go and like they clean up the grounds of the schools. Like, it's a whole family event where they'll go and like mow the yard and like trim the bushes, and you and your family and your kid are out there. And I'm like, man, this actually sounds awful. I would not want to do this.
I mean, I would do it just to make sure that, we all knew that the school was taken care of, like there, especially places here in America where, like, there's like, why does that school look all fucked up? It's like, because nobody's really taking care of it.
Because you guys just tagged it on Saturday. Why are you asking this silly question?
Yeah, but if you had to clean it up, then, you wouldn't tag it. So,
You have the ownership.
Or who does, and you whoop their ass.
yeah, exactly.
So I think that's why, like, because the culture is so different, that's why they were like, "No, even if they don't have a family, they would be getting taken care of by someone. Like, there is a reason this guy is drunk at noon on the street. Yeah. So
there's a like a one of the traditional things they do before the youngest ones go to school for the first time. So the kid goes on a quest, right? So they tell the kid in Japanese, and so they have to go on a quest. It's what the families call it. They don't really tell the kids this. The kids don't know at first. It's just a normal thing. They've done it 10, 15, 20 times, either with their siblings or with their parents. And it's like, hey, I need you to go to the store and pick up milk or some very normal thing, like pick up a small thing.
There's a series on this now on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty
What?
awesome.
And we saw it tons of times in the neighborhoods, but the whole community would know. So every neighbor knew, like all the people across the street, and so the kid feels like they're full on independent. They're walking down the street,
they're
like,
not.
they're just strutting, like I'm going to the store. I don't have no brothers and sisters with me this time. My parents aren't with me. They know how to cross. They know how to do all their stuff, but like there are 100 eyes watching. Like everyone is making sure the kid is safe and nobody's messing with him. That's the level of like community in most of these small villages. So, like they know when that family in that house has a kid who starts school this coming year or whatever. So next month is when they're going to do their quest. So what day are we doing that, guys? Or we're doing it on this Saturday. Cool. And everybody's just kind of sitting there with their coffee, just keeping an eye on them. So it's very different. We loved our little neighborhood. We live downtown too.
The show is called Old Enough, and it's on Netflix, and they have hidden cameras everywhere, and they show this actually happening. It's super cute because like it's cool to see like what toddlers do without like anybody around like watching them, and they still like for the most part do like the right thing. It's pretty crazy.
And they're like, well, I mean, if they learn from their surroundings, so if their family does it, like I didn't feel well earlier, and I was like laying on the ground, and my kid comes up to me. He's like, "Are you okay? Do you need to breathe?" And he's like kissing me and like do it, and he's like, and I'm like, "Oh, this is exactly what I do to you when you don't feel well." So like.
Yeah.
They repeat what they see. So yeah, Japan's great. We could talk about Japan forever.
I still have never been. It's on my list.
You could just go. You could move there.
I could move there. Actually, I really
Bringing it on
could.
back.
I work remote, but
That's
yeah,
all that.
yeah. But convincing my partner to go, it's just like I just recently convinced her like that I really don't want to go to Europe for any kind of vacation. So having us move to Japan would be like a big deal for her.
Why don't you want to go to Europe?
Why would I want to go to Europe?
The French, amazing. Like,
no,
have you been to Paris?
No, I've been through Europe before, and it doesn't hold like I'd much rather go to like Asia.
Yeah, no, but I meant Savannah. Like you had some like affection there for the idea of going to Paris. Have you been to Paris?
Yeah, I have been to Paris. Yes, I know everyone. Like, there's rats. Whatever. I ran the.
I just thought it smelled bad all the time. I was like, God, it smells like urine.
Where did you guys
everywhere
go?
I went.
Like, I didn't see rats. I didn't see I had a fantastic time. I ran the Paris Marathon in 2019.
Oh, nice.
So we got very much like some insider stuff. So because we stayed at the Disney Park hotels area, but we wanted to be in the city most days other than the 2 days we were at Disney. So we would catch like the bus to the train station and then catch the subway trains into town. And subway stations are always like the telltale sign of the real side of the city. And it was bad down there. There was a dude like taking a shit in the subway. We're like, there's a bathroom literally right inside there, man. Don't just take a shit right at the subway stand right where we're getting out. We're like, watch out, kids. Step around this person taking a crap in this.
No, I mean, I just went to Morocco like in August, at the end of July, August. Like, I almost shit in the corner of like a restaurant in Morocco because I couldn't get to a bathroom in time. So I'm just like, I mean,
yeah, no feeling. You're like, I've been there.
I get it, man. Like maybe he couldn't made it. Like,
Yeah.
That looked like he lived there. So.
Well, I have not experienced a bad part of Paris, and I've been a few times. But
yeah. I mean, all of the sites were beautiful. Like seeing all the history stuff was great. We've been to Prague. Prague was probably my favorite city in Europe so far. Seeing the history in Berlin was super cool though. Like, because chunks of the wall are still up. So that was neat.
I did a morning run.
That's why you go to Europe.
Yeah. Because I went for my morning run along the remains of the Berlin Wall, and I was like,
cool. Yeah.
It is surreal because I'm like, yeah. But I mean, Asia's cool too, I guess. It just takes so long to get there.
It takes just as long to get to Europe from here.
A 9-hour flight versus like a 19-hour to get to Okinawa.
Oh yeah, I guess I don't mind. But also,
yeah.
I'm used to like flying. So when I used to fly like international all the time with my old company, they would fly me first or business class. So I'm always assuming that I'm going to do that. Like when I fly
I'm
anywhere.
So I have never flown first class or business class. I've just always been by the bathrooms in the back, which comes in handy in case I ever need to.
You got to work for a different contracting company.
No, I'm talking about personal. I can't afford
personal? Oh, yeah.
flights. Yeah, that's actually one of my goals.
Yeah, you take the whole family, you can't afford those first class seats.
Oh,
I was thinking, when's the last time I flew first class? I was like, oh, well, I went to Austin last year.
and you flew first class to Austin? That's like a 3-hour flight. Is it worth it?
Yes.
What? Tell me, like, because I can't see a continental U.S. flight being worth first class.
Well, yeah, it's honestly, first class domestically is not. It's not even as good as business class international. Business class international for me, that's like my sweet spot. That's way better. But I just wanted to do it. I had the money, so why the fuck not? So, and then I felt bad because I flew there first, but I couldn't get the first class on the way back, so I waited too long. And I ended up breaking my goddamn foot in Austin for that trip. And I was like, God damn it, I wish I had first class now.
Put that foot up.
Yeah.
How'd you break your foot?
I was ATVing. It's still broken. It's healing though.
Healing now, yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
Well, any other book specific things? I think we can go ahead and close out. We've definitely been going for a while. 2 hours?
We talked about a lot of
3 hours.
stuff.
Well, we started a little late, so probably 2.5.
It is 2 hours. Yeah, 2.5 hours. About that. Yeah.
Let's see. Other book things. Oh, wait. No, you did comic books. Sorry, I did want to ask this. Have you read all of the saga?
Fuck yes, I have. I'm caught up.
Good.
I'm waiting for the next one to come out. I think it comes out next week or next 2 weeks. So.
What? That's great news.
What is this?
Yeah. Saga. It's like one of the greatest comics of all time, especially for an adult. I'll just give you like the best part of it. All right. I think on page 2 or 3, there's titties. So there you go.
So his artwork is really cool.
Her
He's got
artwork.
a character.
Her artwork. It's Fiona
Oh,
Staples.
it's a woman?
Yeah,
I
Fiona
thought
Staples.
Oh.
The
Well,
right.
I
Super
thought that. I thought it was Brian K. Vaughan.
No, he's just the writer.
Oh, okay. Well, her artwork's fantastic. The one of the characters is a TV head
Yeah.
and a regular man body. And so, like, as he's going through life, it's like his emotion and internal world is being displayed on a TV. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some of the things that he thinks about is hilarious.
Have you seen Code Bullet, Rasan? The YouTube channel Code Bullet?
I don't think so.
Okay, like his character is that. It's a like man's body with a TV head. I wonder if he just stole it from that comic book.
Maybe. Yeah.
Like of TV man.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, it's January 25th. So 2 weeks from now is when the next one comes out.
Hells yeah. I'll
Yeah.
be over.
Wait,
Where do you get comic books from in San Diego?
So I haven't found a place yet. I'm still getting it mailed to me. This is actually what this box is here. This is my box of comics. I get them weekly, so yeah.
What are you serious?
Want me to live show you what's in here right now?
An unboxing?
Yeah. I'll show you what's in here. This is from like
of being
this is from 2 weeks ago, but yeah.
So Kamikaze is right around the corner from me.
Is it a good comic? Because I haven't found like my cousin who lives close to me too. He said he hasn't found a good one. Do they sell just mostly comics?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Like, what are you talking about? Like, so I went into Kamikaze, okay, and they had one in Point Loma, and it was like Point Loma-fied. But the Kamikaze in Claremont Mesa, like, I went in and there were just stacks of boxes. It looks like your background, for Christ's sake.
That's
Like,
what I want to see.
all right, there you go. Well, then the one in Claremont Mesa, unless they've cleaned it up, like it's definitely that vibe.
We'll write down the
Yeah, I
name.
mean, because like you would think if San Diego Comic-Con is the largest Comic-Con like everywhere, why wouldn't San Diego itself also be a large comic book center?
Yeah, it's because I've driven by a few comic shops, but it's usually like a bunch of toys and like other shit. Like I just want mostly
They do.
comics.
I mean, calm down. They do have toys. I mean, you know.
Some is
I
okay.
went and dropped so much money that the guy just handed me like 3 toys because I was like, "Oh, I really," and he's like, "Here, just take this." Like,
Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, like I missed like going into comic shops. I actually did a couple of podcasts from a comic shop. There was one in a pretty well known one in Oakland. It's called the Cape and Cowl, and they got a Will Eisner Award. I think it's last year. So, all right. Sorry, it's kind of noisy on here.
I can only hear your voice.
Yeah, we're not
Oh,
hearing
okay,
it.
good. This expensive ass microphone is doing its job.
Yeah. It's pointed upward. That's what we can hear.
All right. This is actually, I mean, it's a lot. So. Oh God. They're like they do like an insane job, like
Protecting them.
yeah, which is good because I mean you need them protected, right?
Yeah.
And what's cool is that they'll toss in because I've been a customer with them for like a really long time, so they'll put in variants for me every now and again, which are worth more money, which is always nice because I have some that are worth like a lot, that are like recent ones, which is kind of weird because you never know like which one's gonna be worth a lot. So yeah, I got the Joker, I got Batman, I got X-Force, more X-Men, the Gold Goblin, which is I haven't read any of that yet. Yeah, Hulks. So it's like yeah, these are all like it's just one of those packages, but it's a bunch.
That is a lot.
Yeah, and then there's 2 more of those. So yeah,
And you read all of those every 2 weeks.
I try. I'm behind on some, actually a lot, but the ones that I mainly read, I'm all caught up on.
Like you have some main storylines you follow, and that's the ones you for sure are going to read, and then
Yeah, Saga's one of them. Anything from Jonathan Hickman's another one. Batman stuff. I'm always caught up on X-Men stuff. Yeah.
Did you read For Girls?
Paper Girls? Yeah, I did. It's a great story. And then they had the show, and it got canceled after the first season.
What about Why the Last Man?
I read the first trade. I need to finish the rest.
and then I only saw some of the TV show. Didn't even read the comics.
You and the TV. Just like, can we strike TV conversation?
Yeah. So
It's like,
I don't do comic books very much, so
yeah,
like, oh, I know that is the thing that exists on the television. That's about all I can do of it.
so you're a big like Brian K. Vaughan fan, obviously, because you're naming off all of his.
yeah. So comic books are kind of new for me, and like I'll be honest, sometimes I read them and I'm like, eh. So the ones that I've enjoyed are Brian K. Vaughan ones.
Okay.
And so like, I will probably read anything that he writes.
There was one called like something with it was where the United States went to war with Canada. God damn it, he wrote it. Something about like weather shit. Give me a second. It was a pretty good one too, but it was only like it was a short series.
Do you know Michael O'Brien? Either one of you? Like, you know, 2 Porn Officer 5 O'Brien, right?
I think, yeah, I do. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know who that is. Yeah.
He's got like stacks and stacks and stacks of comic books also.
Yeah, it's always like one of those things when people see like behind me. Like I was like, yeah, I read comics. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, like I read a lot of them. They're like, they don't understand. Like I really read a lot of them. It's to me, it's fucking fun. I don't know why people stop reading comics.
I think because they split off so much, like I can't keep track of all the different like storylines. So people are like, you need to read this version of Batman. Like, I mean, the story is all the same.
Well, so this is why I like the more modern comics. So when you talk about like Image comics, those are the ones that really don't split off as much, right? So when you talk about like DC and Marvel, yeah, there's a huge problem there, especially when they have like these world event or these like spanning events where you have to like literally read like 4 different comic series, or sometimes even 10 different comic series to get the entire event done. That's annoying as shit. But when it comes to like Image comics, they don't do that as much. Like they usually just stick to the story, and they usually are pretty self-contained, and that's why. And they're more adult themed. Like you're not going to see, sex in most Marvel comics, or more adult themes in Marvel comics. And that's why I like reading a lot of Image stuff.
Well, I'm down for that kind of stuff. Like, I think like it has got to be good writing, not so much like action hero bullshit. Like, I don't want to see special powers every second page. That's like not to me. But I like pretty pictures. That's why I like Saga.
Oh, if you like pretty pictures, there's one. Oh, what the fuck's the name of the comic? It's about like. I'm tempted to like go in my actual comics to like look.
Oh, we opened up a can of nerdworms. That's what happened right here.
Yeah, sorry, I forget the name of the. It was like it was one about like gods, and that, like the artist is like she's a really good artist. I think it was another woman, but the comic had to. I stopped reading it because the artist needed a break, and instead of like breaking the comic, they decided to just have guest artists, and they were like real shitty. So yeah, and that's why
It's a
like
terrible plan.
yeah, but when Saga went on a break, so like both Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples were like, okay, I think we're done for a while. They went on hiatus for like 4 fucking years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I caught up for a while.
yeah.
And where are they? Yeah, so I'm glad to hear that they come out in like 13 days. That's good news.
Well, yeah, because they were just on break. I think the last one came out in like June of last year. So yeah,
Am I behind even further?
I don't know. You gotta show me the cover of the one you have. So,
Yeah, they're all.
While we were as we're talking, I just was for some reason it recurred to me the last sets of comic books that I bought was this like Firefly series because I love the TV show,
Yeah.
and so I wanted to get the comics to tell all these extra side stories because the TV show got so poorly managed, and it was really great stories, but like the management and the distribution and advertising and stuff was just terrible. But those comic books were just kind of cool. It was a cool way to capture those characters and see everything again. So I think that's the last like comic book stuff I read, which was maybe a year ago.
yeah, well, I think most people they think about like like I said, the DC and Marvel stuff, and there's a lot more out there, and even the DC and Marvel stuff, there's still some, I guess more divergent stuff within DC and Marvel. You just gotta find them. But most adults don't have time for that shit, I guess. So
Yeah, I guess part of what talking about like the other brands that have this thing going for them, which I guess I definitely could get on board with, which is like it's a single run series. It tells the one story. When that story is done, those characters and that story is done, and you can put those comic books away. Be like, that was a cool story, just like reading a book.
yeah,
And then either, like you said, stick to that artist or that storyteller. Maybe they have similar, like something about that you really enjoyed. And so I could get more behind that. Yeah, the struggle with the mainstream characters is that it's hard to keep up. I feel like so it's part of why I don't really follow much sports. Like I love football. I like the game itself. I could watch a football game, any football game, and see great plays and watch the athletics like happening. But like I don't know what that dude's stats are this year, and I don't know who's injured on the team and what caused them to like lose this season. And I'm not keeping track of all that stuff. I'm not going to do it. I just don't have time.
yeah.
Read.
The comic Savannah is called The Wicked and the Divine. So you get a chance if you like really cool artwork and a decent story, check out that one.
All right, I will look into that.
But be forewarned, there's gonna be you get to a point to where the artwork gets shitty. Then just feel free not to read anymore. So that's what I did.
It's a bullshit.
Great what you did. Well, I need to go to bed.
Same.
Yeah. So this has been really fun. I appreciate you guys having me on here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. This is kind of how we do ours. If you go see any of our older episodes, and hopefully we can get back on schedule and record every once in a while and put some more podcasts out every once in a while.
Yes.
So these will be available in video and in audio forms too. So we'll have a video on YouTube of all of this. Hopefully chop out any pauses, although we didn't really have any, so we'll probably just let it run.
Yeah.
And then we'll do an audio version on all the audio like podcast type. So it's available in most places.
Okay. When will
What were
that
you gonna say,
available?
Rosan?
I mean, how fast do you want me to get it? I can do it tomorrow if you want. I'm just working out tomorrow, so
Yep.
Reading comic books.
yeah, got to read some comic books and work out at the same time. I'm just kidding. They'll get wet. I can't get them wet.
Just put them up there on your Peloton. And...
Yeah. No, I get super sweaty on that goddamn thing, man.
Yeah, I'm the same way. There's no way I can do it.
Like if you look underneath it, see like there's like a towel thing underneath it. Because yeah.
Yeah.
All
right. So, yeah, thank you. You started to say something, Rosan, as I started talking about where they'll be available.
Oh yeah, if you guys want it out tomorrow, I can get out tomorrow. I can.
Yeah, let's go for it. I don't think we really need to do much editing with the video
No.
or the audio other than levels, but probably fine.
Yep, that's all automatic. So
Yes.
all right, well thank you, Savannah, for coming on this podcast talking about mostly books, but also other stuff.
Yep. Anybody who didn't already and wasn't familiar with it, go out and check out her book, Corporal Cannon. And like if you have the ability to do so, you definitely should go read it. So.
I appreciate that.
Parting
And
shots.
Especially like you said, every Marine needs to read it. But
yeah, every Marine should read it. But yeah. All right. Well, I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you.
Yep, later.
Thank you.